Chapter 36:11. The two elders' attitudes were very strange. There was no respect or politeness that should be shown to a distinguished guest. They didn't even bother to greet him. They didn't even have the intention to get up from their chairs. Just like that, he sized up Ji Tianqing with a burning gaze, commenting on him from head to toe. It was as if they were evaluating goods. This kind of feeling made people feel very uncomfortable, even disgusted. Ji Tianqing didn't open his mouth to speak. He was secretly observing the two elders' strength, as well as checking the situation of Wangchuan Palace's defenses. He was already calculating in his mind how he could gain the upper hand in the fight later. Peng Fei couldn't hold back his anger. He glared at the two elders and asked in a resentful tone, "Previously, Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji said that the Taotai clan is the most hospitable. I didn't expect that this is how you treat distinguished guests." The two elders were stunned, as if they didn't expect Peng Fei to be so daring. Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji instantly frowned. The smiles on their faces disappeared. They looked at Peng Fei with gloomy eyes. The corners of their mouths curled into a mocking sneer. They were about to say something to mock him. At this time, fourth elder Tao Yuxing took the initiative to ask Ji Tianqing, "Little guy, I heard that your previous self was seriously injured and stayed in a divine pagoda. You fell from the sky and landed in Dark Moon Mountain Range. What is going on? Who beat you up so badly? Where did you come from?" Ji Tianqing looked askance at him. He sneered in a mocking tone, "What? Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji didn't report to you in detail about this prince's situation. You're asking this now because you want to find out about this prince's origins and background. Are you considering whether or not you'll be retaliated against?" Tao Yuxing's expression instantly stiffened. His eyes were sharp, and he asked in an icy tone, "Little guy, what do you mean?" Ji Tianqing sneered, "All right, don't pretend to be confused. Everyone is well aware of what you want to do. Since you're already prepared to make your move, what are you still being long-winded for?" Suddenly hearing this, not only were the two elders shocked, Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji were also stunned. This, how did he know? We've always performed impeccably and didn't reveal any flaws. The two of them looked at each other in shock and confusion. As for the two elders, they quickly regained their senses. Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, the two of them did not need to pretend anymore. They might as well reveal their true colors. Heh. Kid, I thought I could deceive you and let you die without knowing anything. I didn't expect that we would underestimate you and be discovered by you in advance. However, even if you see through our scheme, it's useless. You've already fallen into a tight encirclement and can't escape even if you have wings." Third elder Tao Rongxin stood up and said with a cold smile. After saying that, he even clapped his hands. Immediately, the 20 red-armored guards who were lying in ambush all over the palace immediately surrounded the spacious living room. Every guard was wearing armor and wielding a sword. They stared murderously at Ji Tianqing and Peng Fei, ready to attack at any time. Fourth elder Tao Yuxing also sneered, "Long Tian, since you already know our objective, then you should also understand that we are determined to win. Don't try to resist in vain. Obediently hand over that divine pagoda and wait for us to deal with you. You can still die a little faster." Indeed, the dagger was revealed when the map was unrolled. The atmosphere in the hall instantly became hostile and filled with murderous intent. Peng Fei gnashed his teeth in hatred. His two fists were clenched until creaking sounds could be heard. He also took out two golden blades that were as thin as cicadas' wings. He stared at everyone with full vigilance, ready to counterattack at any time. But Ji Tianqing was calm and composed. He did not panic or worry in the slightest. He looked at the two elders and opened his mouth to ask, "Other than snatching this king's divine pagoda, how do you plan to deal with this king and Peng Fei?" The two elders frowned and were unwilling to answer. Tao Wangchuan sneered and said, "Kid, is there a need to ask this now? Tao Zhangji sneered mockingly and said, "You're going to die soon anyway. Why are you still asking this nonsense? Why do you care how we deal with it?" Ji Tianqing was not angry either. Ignoring the two of them, he looked straight at the two elders and said, "Since you guys are full of confidence and determined to get it, then what else do you not dare to say? This king just wants to know, as one of the demon race's 7 great aristocratic families, how dare the Taotai clan conspire to kill the dragon race bloodline?" Third elder Tao Rongxin frowned fiercely and sneered disdainfully, "Kid, looks like you're very satisfied with your dragon race identity. Because of this, you're very confident and arrogant. Do you think that by relying on your dragon race identity, you'll receive respect and flattery wherever you go in the dragon realm? Ha ha ha. It's indeed like this among those lowly races. They'll all curry favor with you. But it won't work in our Taotai clan." Fourth elder Tao Yuxing stood up and continued, "Ha ha ha ha. There's a very ancient saying. You might not have heard it before. In the eyes of our Taotai clan, there's no distinction between high and low in all things in the world. To us, all things are our food. Even the publicly acknowledged most noble dragons, phoenixes, and qilins are also similarly food. The only difference is that some foods can bring us enormous benefits. And some trash, inferior food, can only become disgusting excrement, completely worthless." Hearing up to here, Ji Tianqing already understood their scheme and intentions. "I've long heard that the Taotai clan is greedy, cunning, and tyrannical. Now it seems like it's true. Not only do you want to snatch this king's divine pagoda, you also want to devour this king's dragon race bloodline and Peng Fei's golden-winged great rock bloodline. Ha ha ha. You're really audacious. Aren't you afraid of sowing deep hatred with the dragon race and golden rock race because of this, suffering the revenge of the dragon race and golden rock race?" Third elder Tao Rongxin immediately raised his head and laughed loudly, "Ha ha ha ha. You've already fallen into a tight encirclement and can't escape. You can't even send out a single communication jade slip. What is this king afraid of? You want to send a message to the dragon race and golden rock race for help, but is that useful?" Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji also laughed crazily. Filled with excitement, they roared, "Accept your fate. Don't try to resist in vain, obediently accept your death. What bullshit dragon race and golden rock race? Only our Taotai clan is the strongest race in the world." Seeing that their emotions were stirred up, they were about to start fighting very soon. Ji Tianqing asked expressionlessly, "One last question. Is this your scheme, or was it ordered by the Taotai clan leader?" Third elder Tao Rongxin sneered mockingly, The clan leader is currently cultivating in seclusion. He doesn't know about this at all. Moreover, this is our idea. How could we let the clan leader know? After all, our Taotai clan is famous for our hospitality. Every race in the dragon realm knows about it. If it weren't for your dragon race bloodline and divine pagoda being too attractive, we wouldn't have been so ruthless." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and sneered, "Since that's the case, then let's do it." As he said that, he took out the sword of burial of heaven. His entire body lit up with a sacred golden light. Divine power was also rapidly accumulating in his body. In the blink of an eye, his aura rose to the peak. It was as if he was a completely different person. He changed his previous weak and gentle attitude. He became sacred, majestic, violent, and domineering. Chapter 36:12. Seeing Ji Tianqing's awe-inspiring and murderous appearance, the two elders, Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji, were all stunned for a moment. This scene was different from what they had expected. They originally thought that after shedding all pretenses and revealing his true colors, Ji Tianqing would definitely be at a loss out of fear, worried and anxious. After all, they had 4 divine king powerhouses and 20 divine lord realm guards. While Ji Tianqing and Peng Fei, one was a middle-level divine king, the other a high-level divine lord. Both parties' numbers and strength disparity was too great. There was no comparison at all. Ji Tianqing would definitely surrender and admit defeat, begging them to show mercy, but they never would have thought that not only was Ji Tianqing not worried and anxious, he was even brimming with confidence and took the initiative to attack. This was too inconceivable. Humph, still putting on airs when death is at hand. After coming back to his senses, Tao Rongxin gave a cold snort disdainfully, his words filled with contempt. Tao Yuxing also came back to his senses, revealing a cold smile full of contempt. Waving his hand, he ordered, "Attack together, kill the two of them." Following his voice, the 20 guards around the hall brandished their blades and swords one after another, charging towards Peng Fei. While Tao Wangchuan, Tao Changji, Tao Rongxin, and Tao Yuxing, the four of them, attacked Ji Tianqing with all their might, unleashing all kinds of ultimate killing moves. Swoosh! Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In a split second, dazzling divine art light covered the sky, scattering towards Ji Tianqing and Peng Fei like a torrential downpour. Being enveloped by the divine light that filled the sky, Ji Tianqing and Peng Fei both had solemn expressions. Especially Peng Fei, he was even more indescribably sorrowful and indignant, a thick look of despair pouring out of his eyes. Those 20 guards wearing red armor, their strength was around the same as his. 20 people joining hands to besiege him, his outcome could be imagined. Bang! 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 A series of muffled sounds exploded, reverberating endlessly in the palace. The divine art attack that Peng Fei cast was instantly shattered into fragments that filled the sky. Immediately after, his divine power shield and the armor he was wearing were all shattered, splattering out countless fragments. He was bombarded until he was covered in wounds all over, flying out tumbling. His person was still in midair, but blood already scattered all over the sky. Plop! Peng Fei flew back hundreds of meters, smashing through the wall of the living room and falling into the ruins. The entire wall was smashed into smithereens. Countless pieces of bricks and stones rained down, burying him. The violent and devastating shockwave spread out in all directions, shattering the entire hall and causing it to collapse. Ji Tianqing's situation was still fine. Relying on his divine technique, he was able to block the joint attack of the four divine kings. Moreover, he was not at a disadvantage at all. While he was not injured, he had also injured Tao Changji and Tao Wangchuan. But Peng Fei's situation was too miserable. He was no match for the 20 guards and was severely injured in one move. He had not recovered from his injuries yet, and now he was severely injured. His divine body was almost destroyed. With such terrible injuries, he would need at least 10 years of seclusion to recover. Most importantly, this was only the beginning of the war. The 20 Sir Gods didn't stop as they pounced over with murderous intent. They waved their swords and sabers, ignoring the falling pieces of bricks and stones. They all used their most powerful killing moves, wanting to kill Peng Fei in one move. Peng Fei could not resist at all, nor could he counterattack. He could only watch as the divine technique light expanded in front of him and was about to drown him. In at most one breath's time, he would be smashed into smithereens and vanish. At this moment, his heart was filled with endless sorrow and regret. Ha ha ha. I am still too young. In the past, I stayed in the 9 mystical grotto heaven and didn't know the dangers of the outside world. Even when I left the 9 mystical grotto heaven and wandered alone outside, Master and Uncle Master took care of me in secret. Now that I have followed Senior Long Tian and wandered outside, I know how sinister people can be. Peng Fei really regretted it. If he could do it all over again and make a choice again, he would definitely not leave the 9 mystical grotto heaven. He would definitely follow the teachings of the elders in his clan and cultivate to the divine king realm before venturing outside. But unfortunately, it was useless no matter how much he regretted it. Death was about to befall him. Peng Fei closed his eyes and waited for death. However, right at this critical moment, something unexpected happened. His eyes blurred, and divine light flashed in front of him. Suddenly, 3 figures appeared out of thin air. Swoosh! Swoosh! The one in the lead was a skinny, white-haired man from the Phoenix race. As for the other 2 people, one was a divine race man in green robes, and the other was a 100-meter-tall giant with a body like stone. These 3 people had different appearances, but their strength was very formidable. They emitted the aura of powerhouses exclusive to divine kings. Peng Fei was stunned. He stared at the 3 divine kings, dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. These 3 divine king powerhouses were precisely Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu, and Yank. They were originally cultivating in seclusion in the divine pagoda and only appeared to save Peng Fei when they obeyed Ji Tianqing's summons and orders. Seeing the attacks of the 20 guards descending from the sky, Bai Feng waved her palms expressionlessly, sending out palm shadows that filled the sky. Only to hear muffled bangs explode one after another. The divine technique shadows that filled the sky collapsed on the spot, splashing out countless divine light shards. Bai Feng only used one move and disintegrated the encirclement of the 20 guards. Chao Qingyu and Yank seized the opportunity to counterattack, stabbing out several hundred streaks of resplendent sword light and firing out 6 fist shadows that were as large as mountains. Swoosh! 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 Rumble! A horrifying scene appeared. Places where the several hundred streaks of sword light passed, the 20 guards were engulfed by the sword light, turning into smithereens on the spot, exploding into countless pieces of flesh and blood. And those 6 massive fist shadows descended right after, blasting all the survivors into dregs. Amidst an earth-shaking loud bang, the 20 guards were insta-killed on the spot, not even leaving behind a corpse. Not only were their divine bodies destroyed, even their divine personas were blasted into smithereens too. Peng Fei witnessed all of this with his own eyes and was immediately shocked to the extreme. Both eyes opened wide, his eyes filled with astonishment and reverence. Although he did not know these 3 divine king powerhouses in front of him. But with his intelligence and wisdom, it was not hard to guess that these 3 divine kings were definitely related to Senior Long Tian. On the other side, Tao Wangchuan, Tao Zhangji, Tao Rongxin, and Tao Yuxing, the 4 people, had already besieged Ji Tianqing for 3 moves. Unfortunately, they were unable to breach Ji Tianqing's defenses from start to end, and did not harm Ji Tianqing at all. Instead, it was Ji Tianqing who executed his divine ability ultimate skill, taking advantage of the situation to insta-kill Tao Wangchuan. Tao Wangchuan's head was separated from his body, his divine persona also disintegrated, turning into over a dozen fragments, scattering in the ruins. The 3 lucky survivors were very alarmed and terrified. Witnessing Bai Feng and the rest insta-killing the 20 guards with their own eyes, they immediately turned pale with fright, letting out a series of cries of shock. Who are these 3 fellows? Damn it! They actually killed all 20 guards. Definitely Long Tian's helpers. Too despicable, this guy actually brought along Divine King Realm guards with him. Tao Rongxin trio was not stupid and could immediately conclude that Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu, and Yank were definitely Ji Tianqing's guards. Although they were also very shocked and felt that it was inconceivable. How could a mere middle-level Divine King Long Tian have 2 middle-level Divine Kings and 1 high-level Divine King to be his guards? But now was clearly not the time to consider this question. Chapter 36:13. The battle paused. The entire Forgotten River Palace was destroyed, becoming a stretch of ruins. The 20 guards were all reduced to ashes. Only Tao Zhangji, Tao Rongxin, Tao Yuxing, as well as Ji Tianqing and the rest were left on the ruins. A few breaths ago, it was Tao Rongxin and the rest who surrounded Ji Tianqing and Peng Fei. But now, the situation was completely flipped. Tao Rongxin 3 people were instead surrounded by Ji Tianqing, Bai Feng, and the rest. The atmosphere was rather awkward. While Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing were filled with shock and horror, their hearts were also filled with rage. They felt that Ji Tianqing was too treacherous, too despicable. They had all sorts of thoughts in their hearts, but there was no fear or regret. After all, this was the star-devouring grotto heaven, the Taotai clan's lair. Even if Ji Tianqing brought 3 divine king guards with him and caught them off guard, it was also not a big deal. The outcome would still not change at all. Of course, the process would definitely be a little complicated. At the very least, they had to retreat strategically and temporarily avoid the spearhead. Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing exchanged a glance and communicated secretly via voice transmission. This brat's strength is indeed very strong. Furthermore, he even brought 3 divine king realm guards. With just the 2 of us, we definitely can't take them down. No worries. Let's leave this place first, then discuss further. Anyway, it's our territory. Are we still scared of them running away? The 2 hit it off and turned around to flee without hesitation, sprinting toward the Forgotten River Palace's front courtyard. Behind that stretch of ruins was originally the Forgotten River Palace's entrance. At the same time, it was also the entrance to the Sealing Divine Formation. Swoosh! Swoosh! Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing instantly teleported 10,000 feet, appearing at the Sealing Divine Formation's entrance, and were about to cast their arts to open the Divine Formation. However, Ji Tianqing and Bai Feng had long detected it and immediately followed, casting arts to attack. Heavenly Dragon World Slash! Ji Tianqing roared furiously, brandishing the Burial of Heaven sword with all his might, slashing fiercely at Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing. Bai Feng also brandished a pair of blazing white divine sabers, slashing out divine flame saber lights that covered the sky, enveloping the 2 elders' figures. Helpless, Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing could only stop casting their spells and block Ji Tianqing and Bai Feng's attacks with all their strength. Opening the Sealing Divine Array was very simple, but it still took a breath's time. They did not dare to ignore Ji Tianqing and Bai Feng's attacks, as that would be tantamount to suicide. Ping ping ping. When the divine spells from both sides collided, there was a deafening explosion that caused the ground to tremble. The huge Sealing Divine Formation was also completely activated. It lit up with colorful divine light and shook violently. Even though the shock waves from their battle hadn't been able to break the Sealing Divine Array, it was still quite powerful. However, Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing were sent flying. They spat out blood as they fell into the ruins. The 2 of them were horrified. Their faces were full of fear as they activated the array again. Their top priority right now was to escape from the Divine Formation and shake off Ji Tianqing and Bai Feng. Presumably, Ji Tianqing and Bai Feng would not dare to start a massacre in the star-devouring paradise. If that was the case, the 2 of them would be able to survive. However, just as the 2 of them were about to activate the array, Ji Tianqing and Bai Feng pounced on them again. The Sword of Burial of Heaven and the 2 blazing white divine sabers slashed out divine spell shadows that covered the sky and shrouded Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing. The 2 of them were interrupted again. They could only take out their divine weapons to protect themselves and block the attacks with all their might. On the other side, Tao Changji's outcome was very tragic. He did not know that Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing had discussed in secret and decided to activate the Sealing Divine Array to escape. When the 2 elders turned around to escape, he was still rooted to the ground. Then, Ji Tianqing and Bai Feng went to intercept the 2 elders. He was surrounded by Chao Qingyu and Yank. He was only a low-level Supreme God King, while Chao Qingyu and Yank were mid-level Supreme God Kings. Putting aside the difference in their cultivation levels, just Chao Qingyu and Yank's battle experience was enough to crush Tao Changji. Boom! 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 After the first round of attacks, Tao Changji was blasted away and crashed into the ruins. He was severely injured on the spot. His robe and armor were shattered. Blood gushed out from all over his body and his hair was disheveled. He crawled out from the ruins and roared furiously, "You two bastards! This is the star-devouring grotto heaven. How dare you kill me? Are you tired of living?" Tao Changji's words were very intimidating. In the star-devouring grotto heaven, who would dare to kill a supreme god king or deacon of the Taotai clan? Anyone would have to consider the consequences and whether or not they could accept the Taotai clan's anger. Unfortunately, Chao Qingyu and Yank were not among them. The two of them had followed Ji Tianqing. What kind of storms and waves had they not seen? What kind of dangers had they not experienced? It was just a grotto heaven. They did not care about it at all. Therefore, they ignored Tao Changji's words and attacked even more ferociously. Swoosh! 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 Tao Changji was already severely injured and his strength had decreased greatly. Faced with Chao Qingyu and Yank's all-out attacks, he tried his best to block and dodge, but it was useless. Boom! 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 Tao Changji was blasted into pieces on the spot. Not even his bones were left. Even his divine spark was blasted into pieces and scattered among the ruins. Chao Qingyu and Yank did not stop after finishing off their opponents. They turned around and flew towards Ji Tianqing and Baifeng to help them deal with Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing. However, at this moment, Ji Tianqing and Baifeng launched a series of consecutive attacks, injuring the two elders and shattering the ceiling divine formation. Boom! Crack! Along with the crisp cracking sound, a huge crack appeared on the five-colored light shield that enveloped the River of Forgetfulness Palace. Countless shards of divine light shot out. Although Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing were both heavily injured, covered in blood, and in a sorry state, their hair was disheveled. When they saw the crack in the divine formation, they were overjoyed. They rushed over without any regard for their own safety. Swoosh! Swoosh! The two of them were the closest to the crack. They turned around and went through the crack, escaping the ceiling formation. Outside the divine formation, it was still dark and the cold wind was howling. However, the commotion caused by the battle earlier was so great that it shook everything within a 1,000-mile radius. There were many palaces and mansions near the River of Forgetfulness Palace. The Taotai tribesmen living there were all awakened. When Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing escaped from the ceiling formation, there were already dozens of Taotai tribesmen gathered outside. They were looking into the divine formation. It was obvious that they did not know what had happened. Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing flew across the sky in a miserable state. When they saw the dozens of Taotai tribesmen, they shouted at the top of their lungs, "Someone, come and kill those foreign race bastards." Some foreign race experts have sneaked into the star-devouring grotto heaven and are on a killing spree. At this point, the two of them could not care less about keeping it a secret. As long as they could kill Ji Tianqing and the others and save their lives, they would not ask for any benefits. Ji Tianqing, Baifeng, and the others chased out of the divine formation and were about to kill Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing. At this moment, a dignified roar suddenly sounded from the most sacred and solemn palace not far away. Stop! Chapter 36:14. The sudden roar was deep and majestic. Not only did Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing stop running, even Ji Tianqing, Baifeng, and the rest stopped chasing. Even those dozens of Taotai clansmen who drew their weapons and prepared to intercept Ji Tianqing and the rest stopped one after another. The scene immediately quietened down. Swoosh! 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 A cold light flashed past. Over 40 Taotai clansmen put away their weapons one after another and assumed a posture like they were watching a show. Ji Tianqing glanced at the palace not far away and quietly opened the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes pagoda. He put Baifeng, Chao Qingyu, and Yank inside. There was only him left in the scene. In front of him were dozens of Taotai clansmen. Behind him were dilapidated ruins. Right at this time, inside the most sacred and solemn palace, a dazzling blood light lit up. Swoosh! The blood light flashed. A man in purple armor who was 3 feet tall and sturdy like a small mountain appeared in front of everyone. This was a Taotai clansman who looked very clumsy and bloated. His entire body was covered with dark red scales. His curly hair was also scarlet like fire. He wore heavy purple armor and stood in the scene like a mountain, giving people an extremely intense oppressive feeling. Many Taotai clansmen did not dare to look at him. They lowered their heads one after another and bowed respectfully. Greetings to Lord Patriarch. Without a doubt, this Taotai clansman who was like a small mountain was precisely the Taotai clan's patriarch, Tao Yongsheng. The scene was very quiet. Tao Yongsheng sized up Ji Tianqing expressionlessly. Looking at the ruins behind him, he turned his head to look at the heavily injured Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing. Ji Tianqing stood on the spot with an indifferent expression and was also sizing up Tao Yongsheng. He only knew this Taotai clan's patriarch's name but did not understand his nature. Therefore, he was also unable to predict what would happen next. At the same time, in the 2 palaces nearby, several more blood lights lit up. There were 6 to 7 divine king realm Taotai clan powerhouses who came to the scene one after another. Among these people, apart from the Taotai clan's high priest, there were a few elders. They were not noisy, nor did they shout or shout. After arriving, they quietly stood behind Tao Yongsheng, silently watching Ji Tianqing. Seeing that Ji Tianqing was from the Dragon clan and the ruins behind him, as well as Tao Rong Xian and Tao Rong Xian who were in a sorry state, the elders were shocked. After a moment of silence, Tao Yongsheng took the lead and asked in a low voice, "Who can tell me what's going on?" He had been cultivating in seclusion all this while, so he didn't know what had happened. The commotion caused by the battle just now was too great, and it disturbed his cultivation. Therefore, he suppressed his anger, and his face was very gloomy. Tao Rongxin, the villain, complained first. He could not wait to say, reporting to Patriarch, that Dragon clan youth is called Long Tian. We kindly invited him to the star-devouring paradise as a guest. Who would have thought that he would actually covet our clan's resources and treasures, and start a massacre in the Forgotten River Palace? Tao Yuxing also shouted with grief and indignation, "Clan leader, Wang Chuan and Chang Ji, the 2 deacons, have already lost their lives to him. There were also 20 guards who were killed off by him and his companions. Luckily, you came in time. Otherwise, we'd have lost our lives under his sword too." The 2 people's words were extremely provocative. When the surrounding several dozen Taotai clan members heard it, they were indeed filled with righteous indignation and shared a common hatred for the enemy, glaring at Ji Tianqing with furious eyes. But this sort of nonsense, only those Taotai clan members would believe it. The high priest and the few elders did not have any reaction, their expressions indifferent. Tao Yongsheng declined to comment. Looking towards Ji Tianqing, he asked, "Young man, what do you have to say?" Hearing his words, Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing's faces immediately changed. The patriarch clearly did not believe the 2 of them, giving Ji Tianqing a chance to defend himself. Ji Tianqing also raised his brows. The corners of his mouth curled into a meaningful smile. Previously, this king even thought that the Taotai clan were all some greedy, cunning, and malicious people. Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji invited this king with all sorts of enthusiasm and great hospitality. But when this king came to the star-devouring grotto heaven, they secretly colluded with 2 elders, wanting to harm this king and the guards' lives. This made this king very disappointed and hateful towards the Taotai clan. Looking at it now, it was this king who wronged you all. I didn't expect that clan leader Taotai is deeply principled and can distinguish right from wrong. What Ji Tianqing was most worried about previously was that clan leader Tao Tai and the few elders would be the same as Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing, completely disregarding benevolence, righteousness, and morals, shedding all pretense of cordiality and coming to kill the moment they met. That way, if he wanted to escape from the star-devouring grotto heaven, he would still have to expend some means. It would be very difficult. But things were not as bad as he expected. Clan leader Tao Tai, high priest, and the few elders could still maintain reason and restraint for the time being. This let the matter have leeway to turn things around. Of course, Ji Tianqing was just saying so verbally. Actually, in his heart, he would not trust anyone in the Tao Tai clan anymore at all. Tao Yongxing immediately cracked a smile and said with a slight nod, "Young man, you're also a person who understands things. This seat admires you very much." "That's right, our Tao Tai clan has always been warm and hospitable, kind and generous. This seat has been in charge of the Tao Tai clan for these 10,000 years. Other races that came to the star-devouring grotto heaven as guests, if there weren't 10,000, there were also 8,000. But when have you heard before that our Tao Tai clan would murder the lives of our guests? This is simply nonsense. Even if there are some rumors in the outside world, those are also groundless rumors, purely groundless talk." Finished talking, Tao Yongxing pointed at Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing again, saying with a face full of indignation, "This seat really didn't expect that normally, this seat disciplined them so strictly and still couldn't restrain these clansmen well. Now, two scum actually appeared in the clan, doing this kind of infuriating thing. Long Tian, you rest assured. This seat will definitely investigate the truth of the matter clearly and punish them severely to warn the clansmen. In addition, this matter was just an accident. It was the muddle-headedness of those two scum. It absolutely can't represent the entire Tao Tai clan." Tao Yongxing reprimanded Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing as scum in front of everyone, bringing shame to the Tao Tai clan. The two elders were scolded until they were black and blue all over, without any face left. They were both overwhelmed with shame and indescribable grief and indignation. Yet, they were unable to refute and could only lower their heads, forcefully enduring the humiliation, and put on an attitude of admitting their mistake. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing revealed a slight smile on the surface, expressing approval of Tao Yongxing's way of handling things and expressing satisfaction with his attitude. But in reality, the more Tao Yongxing explained to him and apologized, the colder the light in the depths of his eyes became. Because he already discerned that Tao Yongxing was stalling for time here. Most likely, Tao Yongxing also had killing intent aroused. It was just that he was not clear about the situation before his eyes yet, that was why he temporarily endured and put on a show. Ji Tianqing was well aware in his heart. After Tao Yongxing apologized, he suggested probingly, "Patriarch Tao is selfless, upright, and dignified, truly making this prince admire. Since Patriarch Tao wants to investigate the truth and clean house, then this prince won't disturb anymore and will take my leave here." Chapter 36:15. Ji Tianqing mentioned that he wanted to leave the star-devouring grotto heaven. This was a test to verify his guess and the answer he already had in his heart. As expected. Without waiting for him to finish, Tao Yongxing smiled and waved his hand to interrupt him. "Young Master Long Tian, this is you being immature. In this matter, you are the victim. It was our Tao Tai clan that neglected you and made you suffer. Now, I want to interrogate them severely to find out the truth. How can you leave? I have a lot of questions to ask you, and after the investigation is done, I will sentence them to death and compensate you at the same time. Before this matter is settled, you must not leave the star-devouring grotto heaven. Otherwise, if this matter spreads, the other clans will think that we are evil people who bully others." Tao Yongxing said a lot of righteous words to persuade Ji Tianqing. At the same time, he firmly expressed that he would not let Ji Tianqing leave. He did not even give Ji Tianqing a chance to refute. He ordered rudely and arbitrarily, "Young Master Long Tian, Wangchuan Palace has been destroyed. It is temporarily unsuitable for living. How about this, you stay in Great Elder's Wuxian Palace first. A few elders will accompany you and protect your safety. In the next few days, I want to find out the truth and will have to look for you. After I find out the truth, I will give you a satisfactory answer. After this matter is settled, you can leave the star-devouring grotto heaven. After that, Tao Yongxing waved his hand and gave the order. The white-haired Great Elder brought 4 upper Divine King Realm Elders to Ji Tianqing and greeted him. Tao Yongxing and the Great Priest brought Tao Rongxing and Tao Yuxing to the clan leaders' hall. Looking at the 2 elders' dejected and drooping heads, it seemed like they were going to be interrogated. As for the other elders, their attitudes towards Ji Tianqing were much more complicated. On the surface, they were respectful and polite to Ji Tianqing. However, their attitude was tough and their eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. Sometimes, the way he looked at Ji Tianqing was very strange, as if he was looking at a dead man. Perhaps in their hearts, Ji Tianqing was already dead. It was only a matter of time. Before the Patriarch decided to murder Ji Tianqing, their mission was to monitor and imprison Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing was well aware of all of this, and he had already expected it. He was not angry, nor did he panic. He calmly followed the great clan elder and the others to stay in Wuxian Palace. On the surface, the great elder was still polite to him. He arranged 2 guards, 2 maids, and an exclusive room and secret room for him. Ji Tianqing rejected the guards and maids and entered the secret chamber alone to cultivate in seclusion. Seeing that he was so cooperative, the first elder heaved a sigh of relief and was happy to be free. As long as Ji Tianqing stayed in Wuxian Palace and did not go out or leave, he did not care what Ji Tianqing was doing. In the palace where the Patriarch Tao Yongxing lived, the gloomy underground secret chamber was protected by 2 layers of king-grade divine formations, which could block all sound, God power, and soul consciousness. Tao Yongxing sat at the head of the table, holding a bunch of colorful precious gems and stuffing them into his mouth like melon seeds. He chewed them loudly. The high priest stood aside, looking at Tao Rongxian and Tao Yuxing with a dark face. The 2 elders stood side by side in the middle of the secret chamber, lowering their heads as if they were waiting to be scolded. The atmosphere was heavy, but not oppressive or fearful. That was because Tao Rongxian and Tao Yuxing knew that the Patriarch would only scold them and not do anything else. As expected, Tao Yongxing chewed more than 20 gems before he calmed down. He asked in a low voice, "You too, do you know you were wrong?" Seeing his anger dissipate, Tao Rongxian and Tao Yuxing heaved a sigh of relief and hurried to bow and apologize. "Patriarch, please calm down. We know we were wrong. We know we were wrong. Patriarch, please punish us." Tao Yongxing looked at them expressionlessly and asked again, "Then do you know where you were wrong?" "Well." Tao Rongxian was stunned, not knowing how to answer. Tao Yuxing thought for a while and hurried to answer, "Patriarch, we were wrong because we didn't investigate the situation clearly. We didn't know the details of that kid before we acted rashly. If we had investigated clearly and acted with full confidence, we could have killed him in one blow. We wouldn't have made such a mess and humiliated our clan." Tao Yongxing nodded slightly and scolded in a dignified tone, "Yes. You were wrong because you were too stupid, too confident and arrogant. You think you can do whatever you want here in the star-devouring grotto heaven and in our territory? I've taught you many times that nothing is absolute. You can't underestimate your enemy at any time. This is a lesson. Not only did you fail to kill him, but you also lost Wang Chuan, Chang Ji, and 20 guards. You also made a mess and lost your face. That kid is from the Dragon Clan, so he must have a powerful background. If he sends a message to the Dragon Clan or spreads out what you did, how do you think the various clans in the Dragon Realm will talk about our Taotai clan?" Speaking up to here, Tao Yongxing paused and glared at the 2 elders. Tao Rongxian and Tao Yuxing hurriedly admitted their mistakes and apologized, expressing that they would change next time. The high priest also exhorted earnestly, Patriarch taught you countless times that you must put the overall situation first. You coveted that dragon clan youth's bloodline. This is a small matter and also a small profit. But you screwed up the matter. If the news spreads out, it will ruin our clan's reputation. Even to the extent that we will offend the faction behind that kid, sowing enmity with the dragon clan. Whatever you do in the future, you must use your brains and think of the consequences. Tao Rongxian and Tao Yuxing both had lingering fear and said worriedly, Patriarch, High Priest, then why didn't we kill him directly? This way, he wouldn't have the chance to send a message. High Priest's lesson is right. We will remember it firmly. But what I'm worried about now is that kid wouldn't have already sent a message out, right? Tao Yongxing immediately said with a cold smile, if this seat didn't come forward, he indeed had the chance to send a message and make what you guys did public. But this seat came forward, how could he still have the chance? Don't forget, Head Elder's Wuxian Palace was a divine palace that this seat spent painstaking effort and time to specially build. Inside that divine palace, any communication jade slips will be ineffective. Only then did Tao Rongxian and Tao Yuxing feel like they were relieved of a heavy burden, both revealing gratified smiles. Yeah, how could I forget about this? It's still Patriarch who is wise and far-sighted. Tao Yongxing furrowed his brows and said coldly with a black face, shut up. It's no use even if you guys flatter me. This seat isn't done yet. Don't think that this seat doesn't know what you guys are thinking. Isn't it just wanting to hog the dragon clan's bloodline for yourself? Previously, you even concealed the news all along, not letting this seat and the other elders know. Now that you've stirred up trouble, you want this seat to come forward to resolve it. This seat is going to punish you guys with 1,000 years of salary. Are you guys convinced? Chapter 36:16. Tao Yongxing said to Ji Tianqing before, after ascertaining the truth of the matter, he would punish Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing severely. However, the punishment he gave the two elders was so light. Apart from a warning and intimidating meaning, it did not have any substantial harm to the two elders. Either way, their salaries as elders were not high. 1,000 years of accumulation was also just several 100 million divine stones. Divine king powerhouses like them, which one did not possess several 100 billion in wealth. Their source of wealth did not rely on the Taotai clan's salary. Therefore, Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing were filled with joy, hurriedly bowing and giving thanks. Patriarch's decision, were wholeheartedly convinced. Many thanks for Patriarch's leniency beyond the law. We'll definitely remember your teachings and absolutely won't make the same mistake again. After the two elders bowed and gave thanks, Tao Yongxing waved his hand and continued, the punishment is done. Now, you guys tell this seat, just what is that Long Tian's background? Also, you guys said before that he seemed to have brought along guards. What's going on here? Tao Rongxin hurriedly answered, reporting to Patriarch, that Long Tian was swindled back by Forget Chuan and Changji when they ran into each other at the Dark Moon Mountain Range. At that time, Long Tian even had a guard beside him. That was a high-ranked divine lord realm golden-winged great rock. Although Long Tian and that golden rock were both seriously injured, Forget Chuan detected that Long Tian's strength was very powerful and came to find us in private, requesting us to take action and help. And when we entered the Forgotten River Palace and made a move against Long Tian, only then did we discover that his strength was indeed very powerful, comparable to high-ranked divine kings. Furthermore, he even brought along 3 divine king realm guards with him. Those 3 guards seemed to all be of the divine race. One was a high-ranked divine king with the Phoenix race bloodline, while the other 2 were middle-ranked divine kings. Hearing Tao Rongxin's explanation, Tao Yongxing immediately furrowed his brows, his eyes twinkling with a scorching light. No wonder the Forgotten River Palace was destroyed. Forget Chuan, Changji, and 20 guards were killed. The two of you were also seriously injured. I didn't expect that he looked like he was alone, but in reality, he brought along 4 guards with him. Furthermore, there were actually Golden Rock and Phoenix race bloodlines among those 4 guards. At this point, Tao Yongxing's lips curled into a bloodthirsty sneer, and he licked his lips greedily. He has a top-notch dragon bloodline to begin with, and the guards around him have the bloodlines of the Golden Rock and the Phoenix. Heh heh heh. Even though Wang Chuan and Chang Ji were dead, it had to be said that these two fellows' luck was really unbelievably good. The two of them are the lucky stars of our clan. The great priest hurriedly nodded in agreement, then sneered and said, no matter the bloodline of the dragon kind, the phoenix kind, or the Gold Rock clan, they are all stronger than the bloodline of our Taotai clan. Coincidentally, the patriarch had been cultivating in seclusion. However, he was stuck at the 9th heavenly king realm, unable to reach the peak. These outsiders have come at the right time. The clan leader's great opportunity has finally arrived. Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing instantly understood that the patriarch would not let Long Tian and his guards off. The patriarch wanted to devour the 3 noble bloodlines to strengthen his own bloodline and increase his strength. In other words, the two of them had gone through all this trouble for nothing, but they didn't even get a single strand of hair. Not only was he heavily injured, he was also fined 1,000 years of salary by the patriarch. He had really gone for wool and come home shorn. The two of them were somewhat depressed when they thought about it. However, the patriarch was already especially kind to the two of them. The two of them could not ask for anything extravagant, let alone dare to show dissatisfaction. After a moment of silence, Tao Yuxing opened his mouth to ask, Patriarch, now that the situation is clear, when will you take action? No hurry. Tao Yongxing waved his hand, revealing a smile full of confidence, and said, a cooked duck can't fly away. Furthermore, you guys have already failed once. This matter will definitely spread throughout the star-devouring grotto heaven and be known by the clansmen. When I take action again, I must plan carefully and carefully. I must not fail. The great priest nodded slightly, expressing his agreement. That's right. When the patriarch takes action, you can only succeed. There must not be any slip-ups. Otherwise, it will damage the patriarch's prestige. In addition, this matter cannot be resolved here. It will cause the clansmen to criticize. I suggest to put it at Starry Cliff. Starry Cliff was a cliff that was as high as 100,000 feet, close to the spatial barrier. It was directly north of the Taotai clan's camp, 90,000 miles away. In other words, that was the northern edge of the star-devouring grotto heaven, a place where people rarely went. But it was close to the spatial barrier. One could admire the vast starry sky without any obstructions, bathing in the brilliance of billions of stars. Therefore, Starry Cliff's star-divine power was incomparably abundant. It became a treasure land and scenic spot of the star-devouring grotto heaven. Normally, Starry Cliff was sealed by a divine array. Only the patriarch, elders, and deacons could enter. Hearing the great priest's suggestion, Tao Rongxian and Tao Yuxing's eyes lit up, hurriedly nodding in agreement. That's right. Putting it at Starry Cliff is the safest. No matter what happens there, the clansmen will not know. Great priest is still thoughtful. Even if there is a fight at that time and a huge commotion is caused, it will also not spread here. Tao Yongxing frowned and weighed for a moment before nodding in agreement to this suggestion. Alright, then let's do as the great priest says. After that, he started to give orders, arranging a series of tasks for everyone. Pass the order to the great elder. Let him and the other 4 elders keep a close eye on Long Tian. Absolutely do not allow him to take half a step out of Wuxian Palace. Rongxian, Yuxing, you guys immediately enter the ancestor altar and treat your injuries as soon as possible. Great priest, you bring 20 elite experts and follow this seat to Starry Cliff. This seat has to go to Starry Cliff to set things up. Only by preparing in advance can I guarantee that nothing goes wrong. The great priest and the two elders both acknowledged the order, bowed and took their leave, going to carry out the mission. After 7 minutes, the great priest quietly gathered 20 elite experts and followed Tao Yongxing to rush to Starry Cliff, setting up traps in advance. Inside the Taotai clan's campsite, undercurrents were already surging. In these 2 days, several thousand Taotai clan members were all discussing one matter. There was a dragon race youth in the campsite who fought a great battle with 2 elders, destroying the Forgotten River Palace and killing 20 guards. In the end, that dragon race youth was safe and sound. The patriarch severely punished the 2 elders. All because the 2 elders harbored evil intentions, conspiring to kill that dragon race youth, wanting to seize his dragon race bloodline. Several thousand Taotai clan members were all sighing emotionally, becoming more and more reverent and admiring of the patriarch. The patriarch normally teaches us that if our strength is not powerful enough, we have to keep a low profile and endure, and absolutely must not provoke powerful enemies. Those 2 elders are also muddle-headed, to actually dare provoke the dragon race's divine king. Isn't this setting up a powerful enemy for our clan? Yeah. Fortunately, the patriarch came forward in time and stabilized that dragon race youth. That was how this matter did not blow up. If the news were to spread out, or spread to the dragon race, not only would our clan's reputation be damaged, we would even suffer the dragon race's revenge. The patriarch really went to great lengths for our peace and tranquility. I heard that the patriarch severely reprimanded and punished the 2 elders in order to settle this matter, all in order to give that dragon race's divine king a satisfactory explanation. Bookhouse Reading Website. Chapter 36:17. The discussions and rumors of the Taotai clan were somewhat different from the truth. At least, the vast majority of the clansmen did not understand the clan leader's true thoughts. All the clansmen thought that clan leader Tao Yongxing did not want to become enemies with the dragon race and would definitely give Long Tian a satisfactory explanation. But in reality, Tao Yongxing had already sharpened the butcher's knife and dug the trap. Tao Yongxing was a very shrewd powerhouse. Even though the greed, cunning, and brutality in the Taotai clan's bones could not be changed. But he was very good at doing superficial work. His discipline and restraint of ordinary clansmen were also mainly persuasion and education. In the long run, even the Taotai clan felt that the Taotai clan scrupulously abided by their duties and was hospitable, never causing trouble, let alone bullying other races. However, only the deacons, elders, and priests who were strong enough and had high enough status understood the true meaning of clan leader Tao Yongxing. That was, they could commit crimes and plunder greedily, but they must plan before acting. No matter what, they could not let the news spread and damage the reputation of the Taotai clan. Regarding this, the deacons and elders of the Taotai clan admired and agreed from the bottom of their hearts. If Tao Yongxing did not request this, the Taotai clan's reputation would be ruined very quickly if they were allowed to do as they pleased, plundering crazily and bullying other races based on their nature. In a few years' time, the Taotai clan would become the scum that everyone shouted at, hated and besieged by countless demons. If that was the case, the Taotai clan would be finished no matter how powerful it was. Tao Yongxing did this to protect the Taotai clan's 10,000 years of foundation. For close to 10,000 years, the Taotai clan's powerhouses murdered at least hundreds of thousands of foreign race powerhouses. But the outside world only spread some groundless, specious stories and discussions, but there was very little real evidence. Many demons did not have a good impression of the Taotai clan and were very wary, but they could not produce evidence that the Taotai clan harmed the demons. This was Tao Yongxing's credit. Inside Wuxian Palace. The Grand Elder and the 4 elders had been sitting in the palace all along, monitoring that secret chamber in the depths of the palace at all times. A full 3 days had passed and everyone did not relax for a moment. Fortunately, the door of that secret chamber was also tightly shut and had never been opened. The few elders did not care about what Ji Tianqing was doing in the secret chamber. They only knew that when the clan leader ordered to see Ji Tianqing, his death date would arrive. Inside the divine pagoda, space-time was distorted. Ji Tianqing was sitting cross-legged under the blood flame sacred tree, concentrating on cultivating and healing his injuries. Only 3 days had passed in the outside world, but he had already been in seclusion for 5 months. In the past 5 months, he had refined Tao Changji and Tao Wangchuan's godheads. Not only had his strength increased, but he had also gained 5 new types of divine Tao laws. Although Tao Wangchuan and Tao Zhangji were both low-level divine kings, refining their godheads didn't give Ji Tianqing much of an improvement. However, both of them were from the Taotai clan, and the innate ability of the Taotai clan was to devour all things. From ancient times until now, there was a legend circulating in the dragon realm. It was said that the Taotai clan was the greediest clan in the world and could devour everything for their own use. They were like bottomless pits that could never be filled. Not to mention the tens of thousands of monsters in the dragon realm, even heaven and earth would be devoured by Taotai. It could be seen from this how powerful the Taotai clan's devouring talent was. Coincidentally, when Ji Tianqing ascended to the divine world back then, he unexpectedly obtained the devouring talent in the ascension pool. For so many years, he had also relied on the devouring talent to refine countless cultivation resources and rapidly increased his strength. This was virtually exactly the same as the Taotai clan's innate divine ability. Hence, he refined Tao Wangchuan and Tao Zhangji's godheads and deprived the two of their devouring talent. Fusing with his devouring talent, it made his devouring divine ability go up a level, becoming even more powerful and perfect. In a short 1 month's time, Ji Tianqing completed this matter. In the following 4 months, he had been using the devouring talent all along, devouring cultivation resources frenziedly. Regardless of whether it was the blood flame sacred tree's divine fruits, or the divine stones, source stones, divine pills, and various divine artifacts stored in his interspatial ring, they were all devoured and refined by him. In 4 months' time, the cultivation resources stored in his interspatial ring actually decreased by 20%. Cultivation resources worth 50 billion divine stones were devoured by him just like that. At the thought of this, Ji Tianqing's heart ached and he was reluctant to part with them. However, after devouring so many resources, he was very satisfied with the benefits and results that he had obtained. Not only had he recovered from his injuries, but he had also recovered to his peak condition. His strength had also increased by 6 times. Naturally, he had reached the peak of the 5th level of the Divine King realm. Ever since Ji Tianqing had recovered to the Divine King realm, this was the first time his strength had increased at such a rapid speed. Previously, when he had broken through to the 5th level of the Divine King realm, it was when he was on his way to the Xuanji Grotto. In less than a month, he had reached the peak of the 5th level of the Divine King realm. If news of such a terrifying speed of growth were to spread, it would definitely shock countless divine kings. Even Ji Tianqing himself felt a wave of worry and relief. Fortunately, I am a reincarnated cultivator. I was a peak divine king in my previous life. Now that my strength has increased so rapidly, my body and soul can still withstand it. Other divine kings, even the experts of the Taotai clan, would not be able to do this. But even so, this kind of strength increase will still threaten my foundation of the divine Tao. I have to settle down in this realm for a period of time and strengthen my foundation of the divine Tao before I can break through to the next realm. Otherwise, my foundation of the divine Tao will be damaged and I will stop at the peak divine king realm in this life. It will be very difficult to pursue the realm of the God Emperor. Ji Tianqing analyzed the pros and cons of rapidly increasing his strength and reminded himself silently. Of course, he was now in the star-devouring grotto heaven, trapped in a devil's den. He would face the threat of death at any time. This kind of strength increase was also forced by circumstances. Tao Yongsheng is sanctimonious. On the surface, he is hypocritical and pretentious. Secretly, he has the intention to kill. He will definitely think of ways to get rid of me. He can deceive others and deceive the Taotai clan, but he can't deceive me. Ji Tianqing ended his cultivation and pondered and analyzed silently. I have been in seclusion for 5 months, and 3 days have passed in the outside world. If he has some scheme, he should be done preparing and about to take action, right? Thinking of this, he got up and left the divine tower, returning to the secret chamber. He was about to walk out of the secret chamber to test the reactions of the few elders. Unexpectedly, someone knocked on the door of the secret chamber, and a dull knocking sound came from the door. Dong dong dong. The thick and heavy stone door was knocked with a dull sound, and it was still flickering with a dazzling divine light. He really came. This thought flashed through Ji Tianqing's mind, and the corner of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. He raised his hand and opened the secret chamber's stone door. He saw the white-haired great elder standing at the door of the secret chamber, and the other 4 elders followed behind him. Seeing Ji Tianqing appear, the great elder squeezed out a smile and pretended to laugh heartily. Young Master Long, I have good news to tell you. The Patriarch has found out the truth and invited you to the Starry Cliff for a banquet. He wants to give you an explanation in person. Chapter 36:18. Starry Cliff? A banquet? Ji Tianqing frowned as he looked at the Grand Elder. He felt that the Grand Elder's smile was extremely fake. However, the current situation was very clear. The Taotai Patriarch and several elders wanted to kill him, but because of the Taotai clan's reputation, they were still acting. If he shed all pretense of cordiality and forcibly broke out of the encirclement and escaped from the star-devouring paradise, the experts of the Taotai clan would immediately take action to kill him. Even the entire Taotai clan, including several thousand Taotai clansmen, would besiege him. Therefore, Ji Tianqing could only endure and cooperate with the Taotai Patriarch's act. He could only look for an opportunity to counterattack and escape in the other party's scheme. The Grand Elder still maintained a gentle smile as he patiently explained, "Young Master Long, please rest assured. The Patriarch has always been fair and impartial. He will definitely not favor those 2 elders. As far as I know, those 2 elders were severely punished by the Patriarch. In order to express his apology and to highlight the seriousness of the matter, the Patriarch set up a banquet at the Starry Cliff and invited you face to face. The Patriarch wants to apologize to you face to face and compensate you." Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and asked, "It's fine if it's in the Patriarch's palace. Why does it have to be at the Starry Cliff?" After refining Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji's godheads, he naturally obtained the memories of the 2 god kings. Therefore, he knew the exact location of the Starry Cliff. The Grand Elder explained with a smile, "Young Master Long may not know, but the Starry Cliff is our star-devouring paradise's unique scenic spot. You can overlook the boundless starry sky and enjoy the scene of billions of stars. Normally, the Patriarch will only set up a banquet at the Starry Cliff when he receives distinguished guests." Hearing this, a thought suddenly flashed through Ji Tianqing's mind. This camp is right in the middle of the star-devouring paradise. The Starry Cliff is north of the camp, at the edge of the star-devouring paradise. The exit of the star-devouring paradise is at the southern edge of the camp, close to 100,000 miles from here. If the Patriarch and the Grand Priest are both at the Starry Cliff, then wouldn't my chances of escaping be very high? Therefore, Ji Tianqing pretended to casually ask, "Are we going to the Starry Cliff now?" The Patriarch and the Grand Priest are already waiting there. The Great Elder didn't reply immediately. Instead, he furrowed his brows in vigilance. After a moment of silence, he smiled and replied, "The Patriarch and the High Priest are dealing with some clan affairs. We will go to the Starry Cliff first, and the Patriarch and the High Priest will follow. If young Master Long doesn't want to go first, then we can wait a little longer. When the Patriarch and the High Priest are done with their affairs, we can go to the Star Cliff together." It was obvious that Tao Yongsheng and the High Priest had also left a card up their sleeves to prevent Ji Tianqing from escaping. Ji Tianqing frowned. He was a little disappointed and could only give up the idea of taking the opportunity to escape. Thus, he waved his hand and said, "No need to wait. Let's go to Starry Cliff first." It just so happens that this prince has only heard of the wonders of the Starry Cliff before, but has never seen it with his own eyes. Let's go over first. This king can also admire the vast starry sky. That's good. The first elder nodded with a satisfied smile. After that, the 5 elders took Ji Tianqing and left Wuxian Palace, flying towards the north. On the surface, it looked like the 5 elders were accompanying Ji Tianqing. On the way, the first elder was very enthusiastic and introduced the star-devouring grotto heaven to Ji Tianqing, as well as the beautiful scenery of the starry cliff. But in reality, the 4 elders were silent and vigilant at all times, preventing Ji Tianqing from suddenly injuring or escaping. A distance of more than 90,000 miles was not far for the God Kings. After a short 45 minutes, everyone arrived at the northern border of the star-devouring grotto heaven and arrived at the bottom of the starry cliff. There were barren mountains all around, and beneath everyone's feet was a wasteland full of gravel. And right in front of them, near the edge of the transparent spatial barrier, there was a lone peak that was 10,000 feet tall. That lone peak looked as if it had been hacked by an axe. The front was very steep, and the back was a straight cliff. The cliff was close to the transparent spatial barrier, and outside was the dark starry sky. And at the top of the lone peak, on the mountain peak with a radius of 100 miles, stood a simple and dignified palace. Tao Yongsheng's banquet to entertain Ji Tianqing was in that palace. Swoosh! The 5 elders brought Ji Tianqing to the top of the starry cliff and landed outside the palace. Ji Tianqing pretended not to notice the approaching danger and looked around curiously, revealing an amazed expression. The legendary starry cliff does not disappoint. Behind this cliff is the spatial barrier of the star-devouring grotto heaven, and beyond it is the vast starry sky. Ordinary people stay in the dragon realm, which is extremely far away from outer space. But here, between us and the vast starry sky is only a spatial barrier. Ji Tianqing admired the vast starry sky as he exclaimed. But in reality, he secretly used the divine eye mystic technique and used his divine sense to explore the entire starry cliff. In a short while, he discovered the problem. Just as he had guessed, today's banquet was a trap. The palace in front of him had also set up a supreme-grade king-grade divine array, which was full of hidden dangers. At this moment, the divine array was hidden very deeply, and unless one was a top-array grandmaster, one would not be able to see it. However, once the divine array was activated, the entire palace, and even the entire starry cliff, would be sealed. At that time, not only would he be unable to escape, he would also have to bear the suppression and attack of the divine array. In addition, Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and many elders would take action, and he would die without a doubt. What a vicious scheme, what ruthless methods. In order to deal with me, he spent so much effort and methods, and even mobilized so many divine kings. Tao Yongsheng is really too cautious. Such methods are enough to deal with a 9th-level divine king expert. Ji Tianqing thought to himself, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Since he saw through Tao Yongsheng's scheme in advance, he naturally would not sit still and wait for death. He opened the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes pagoda and released Peng Fei. Swoosh! Divine light flashed, and Peng Fei suddenly appeared in front of the elders. Ji Tianqing patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "Peng Fei, this is the starry cliff of the star-devouring grotto heaven. Enjoy the scenery here." After saying that, he secretly gave Peng Fei a look. Peng Fei immediately understood what he meant and guessed what he was going to do, but he needed cover. Thus, Peng Fei pretended to look around excitedly and cheered excitedly, "Wow! What a dazzling starry sky, we can really overlook the galaxy from here." As he said that, he pulled the high priest with a heart full of excitement and asked a series of questions. "High priest, is the star closest to us the dragon realm? Are we outside the dragon realm?" Is the star-devouring grotto heaven floating in the starry sky? Is the spatial barrier strong? Will it be broken by meteors? Peng Fei acted as if he was very familiar with the place, pulling the elders to ask all sorts of questions, which made the elders very uncomfortable. However, the patriarch and the high priest had not arrived yet, and the elders still had to continue acting. They could only reveal forced smiles and answer Peng Fei's questions one by one. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ji Tianqing secretly observed the divine array that sealed the palace, looking for a way to break it. Chapter 36:19. Peng Fei was still very talented in this aspect of causing trouble. There was a period of time when the 5 elders were confused and disoriented by his continuous barrage of questions. As a result, their attention was diverted by Peng Fei. Ji Tianqing took the opportunity to observe the divine formation sealing the palace and indeed saw the trick. But the good times did not last long. As he began to move and change his position to observe the divine formation, First Elder finally came back to his senses. He sensed that Ji Tianqing's actions were suspicious and guessed that Ji Tianqing was suspicious and was observing and guarding against something. Unfortunately, he was firmly entangled by Peng Fei and could not escape. Therefore, he secretly transmitted his voice to the other elders and said, "Leave this Peng brat to me. You guys keep an eye on Long Tian and don't let him play any tricks." The elders nodded secretly and hurriedly turned to leave, wanting to keep an eye on and pester Ji Tianqing. But Peng Fei's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He held back the 2 elders with one hand. The 2 elders were somewhat angry and glared at him with sharp gazes. But he had a cheeky look as if he did not see the 2 elders' angry gazes and pestered the 2 of them. The 2 elders were angry but could not fall out with Peng Fei and could only impatiently deal with him. Just like that, Peng Fei held back the 3 elders alone. Seeing this, the other 2 elders hurriedly left to harass and pester Ji Tianqing. However, Ji Tianqing's performance gave the 2 elders a headache. He was actually able to multitask. While observing the divine formation, he was also able to deal with the 2 elders. No matter if the 2 elders asked questions, chatted, or deliberately blocked and disturbed Ji Tianqing's mind, Ji Tianqing was not affected at all. He had a smile on his face. While dealing with the 2 elders, he quickly walked around the palace. The 2 elders increasingly felt that something was wrong. Full of anxiety, they could not help but intercept Ji Tianqing and restrict his movements. However, Ji Tianqing's movement technique was very ghostly. His figure often flashed and avoided the 2 elders. Just like that, while both sides restrained their anger and put on an act, they competed with each other with their own thoughts. 100 breaths later, Ji Tianqing still hadn't found a way to break the god array. After all, this was a supreme-grade king-level divine formation. Tao Yongsheng and the high priest had spent 3 days setting it up. No matter how profound Ji Tianqing's attainments in the array Dao were, it was impossible for him to find a solution in such a short period of time. However, he had seen through the veins and foundations of the divine formation and found its weak point. Therefore, while dealing with the 2 elders, he took out one king-grade divine artifact after another and silently dug into the ground. His movements were extremely fast and stealthy. In addition, he had secretly released an invisible spiritual energy to conceal himself from the 2 elders' divine consciousness. In this way, he could walk around the palace and secretly bury 9 king-grade divine artifacts in less than 15 minutes. Furthermore, his actions had not been discovered by the 2 elders. Those 9 king-grade divine artifacts, sabers, spears, swords, halberds, everything. They were the spoils of war that he obtained from killing various divine king powerhouses in the past. Even though those divine artifacts were not high-grade goods. Most of them were some low-grade king-grade divine artifacts. There were only 2 middle-grade king-grade divine artifacts. But Ji Tianqing buried those 9 divine artifacts underground and nailed them to the weak points and key positions of the divine formation. At a critical moment, they could play an unexpected role. If there was enough time, Ji Tianqing still wanted to continue observing the divine formation and find a way to break it. But very unfortunately, 15 minutes had already passed. In the sky not far away, 2 balls of divine light flew over at lightning speed. Swoosh! Swoosh! 10 breaths later, those 2 balls of divine light arrived at the peak of the deep star cliff and landed outside the palace gates. The divine light receded, revealing Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, Tao Rongxin, and Tao Yuxing's figures. And at this time, Ji Tianqing and Peng Fei also returned to normal. They stood together with the 5 elders and looked at Tao Yongsheng and the rest. Ha ha ha. Young Master Long, how is the scenery of the deep star cliff? After Tao Yongsheng landed, he looked at Ji Tianqing with a smile and asked. On the surface, it looked like he was just being polite with Ji Tianqing and casually chatting with him. But everyone was well aware that when they heard Tao Yongsheng's words, they all felt that it was somewhat ironic. Especially Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing, who looked at Ji Tianqing with a cold expression. Their eyes contained a trace of a strange light. It was as if they were filled with anticipation and wanted to see Ji Tianqing's body torn into pieces. That kind of excitement and cruelty. Ji Tianqing replied with a smile, the scenery is picturesque and majestic. This deep star cliff and star-devouring grotto heaven are rare treasures in the dragon realm. But unfortunately. Hearing these 3 words, Tao Yongsheng and the elders all frowned. The high priestess even stared at Ji Tianqing and asked, but unfortunately what? Ha ha ha. Ji Tianqing revealed a meaningful smile and said with a sigh, unfortunately, such a beautiful scenery can only be appreciated in the future. Hearing this answer, the Taotai clan powerhouses' faces all froze, their expressions not too natural. Especially the elders, who secretly sneered in their hearts, ha ha ha. You damn bastard, idiot. Death is at hand and you still don't know it. Do you think you still have a future? But Tao Yongsheng, the high priestess, and the great elder heard another meaning. Appreciate in the future. Looks like this kid has already noticed and knows that we are going to make a move. Not only did he notice that we are going to make a move, but he also has the confidence to successfully escape. Moreover, he will return to the star-devouring grotto heaven in the future and take revenge on us. What an arrogant kid. No matter what, we must kill him today and eliminate him completely. The Taotai clan powerhouses suppressed their anger and killing intent and tried their best to remain calm. Tao Yongxing originally still wanted to continue teasing Ji Tianqing with the attitude of a cat toying with a mouse before making a move, treating it as entertainment. The high priestess, great elder, and the rest also very much wanted to see Ji Tianqing stunned, disbelieving, and also panicked and fearful expression when he was besieged. But Ji Tianqing already sensed their motives and killing intent. Everyone immediately felt dull and also did not have the joy of teasing Ji Tianqing. Tao Yongxing did not wish to delay anymore, so he ordered expressionlessly, all right, everyone is already here. The banquet is also prepared. Let's go in then. Finished talking, he and the high priestess sandwiched Ji Tianqing on the left and right, taking the lead and stepping into the palace. Peng Fei was also taken care of by the 2 elders, half pulling, half dragging into the palace. Boom! When everyone entered the divine palace, the instant the palace doors closed, a mocking sneer flashed across the depths of Tao Yongsheng, the high priestess, and the 7 elders' eyes. Ji Tianqing and Peng Fei, this step into the palace was equivalent to stepping into hell. Following this, a good show was about to start. Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing already could not suppress the excitement in their hearts, revealing a victorious sneer. Even if their expressions were strange and would expose themselves in advance, no one cared or reminded them. Because in the view of the 9 Taotai clan divine kings, the matter was already a foregone conclusion. There were no exceptions. Chapter 36:20. Logically speaking, Tao Yongsheng set up a banquet to entertain Ji Tianqing. Not only were there guards in the palace, there should also be maidservants. But there was not a single guard inside or outside the palace, let alone a single maidservant. What was even more outrageous was that when everyone stepped into the hall of the palace, only then did Ji Tianqing discover that the hall was empty. There was neither a dining table nor delicacies. There was only the icy-cold crystal blue floor and 8 pitch-black rock pillars. Of course, in the corners of the hall, there were several rock statues that were also icy-cold. Since we're going to act, then act to the end. Ji Tianqing stood at the entrance of the hall and surveyed the hall. He could not help sneering and said, I didn't expect that clan head Tao is so impatient, not even acting at the last step, the most crucial act. Tao Yongsheng and the few elders all frowned. A cold light and killing intent flashed across their eyes. Especially Tao Yongsheng, who looked at Ji Tianqing with a cold smile and asked in a mocking tone, Young Master Long, what are you saying? Why can't this seat understand? The high priest and the few elders were silent. They all spread out quietly and blocked the entrance of the hall to prevent Ji Tianqing and Peng Fei from escaping. Peng Fei realized that things were not good and immediately frowned, looking at the few elders with a heart full of vigilance. Ji Tianqing was still calm and composed. Turning his head to look at Tao Yongsheng, he said with a cold smile, Clan head Tao, it's already reached this point. Is there still a need to play dumb? This prince has already come here and stepped into the trap you laid. Don't delay any more. Hurry up and make your move. End this quickly. Ji Tianqing already said it so clearly. Tao Yongsheng and the few elders of the Taotai clan could no longer act. They all tore off their disguises and revealed their true faces. Originally, I still wanted to give you a surprise. Didn't expect that you discovered it long ago. Sigh, this is seriously too boring. Tao Yongsheng put away the cold smile on his face, shook his head, and sighed. The high priest and the few elders were also surprised by Ji Tianqing's reaction. Originally thought that we could deceive everyone. Didn't think that we all underestimated you. Brat, so what even if you saw through our scheme? You've already fallen into a tight encirclement, and you're dead for sure. He. The noble bloodline of the dragon tribe will soon belong to us. No matter what means or background you have, it's useless. Even if the Dragon Emperor comes today, he won't be able to save you. As they spoke, the elders took out their divine weapons and swords. They sneered and exuded a terrifying killing intent. Tao Yongsheng also waved his hands and shot out a dozen or so rays of divine light, which entered the walls of the palace. In the next moment, divine light soared into the sky around the palace, and a dark red light barrier with a radius of 10,000 feet appeared in an instant. The Supreme Grade King Sealing Divine Matrix was activated. It sealed the entire palace and released an invisible, majestic divine power to suppress Ji Tianqing and Peng Fei. Among the crowd, the two people who were the most excited were Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing. Both of them were holding on to their divine weapons. Their faces were filled with cruel and sinister smiles as they laughed out loud. Ha ha ha. Long Tian, you've fallen into our trap. Do you think the Patriarch will uphold justice for you and punish us? You're too naive. If not for taking the big picture into consideration, the Patriarch would have already killed you 3 days ago. He, even if your status is noble and your strength is uncommon, so what? Landing in our Taotai clan's hands, you can forget about leaving alive. For close to 10,000 years, God knows how many dragon race divine kings like you were all killed by us like this. Until they died, they couldn't rest in peace. 3 days ago, Tao Yongsheng reprimanded the two of them in public and even threatened to punish them severely. This made the two of them feel very wronged and also lost face in front of the Taotai clan. In these 3 days, the two of them had been suppressing their fury all along, patiently waiting for the moment of revenge. Now, they finally did not need to pretend anymore and could personally kill their enemy. They were more excited than anyone else. Ji Tianqing's eyes swept across Tao Rongxin and Tao Yuxing icily. Finally, his gaze landed on Tao Yongsheng. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile, and he said in a contemptuous tone, "Actually, as early as in the Forget River Palace, when they joined hands to deal with this king already saw through the Taotai clan's true colors. As the saying goes, a dog can't change its habit of eating shit. The Taotai clan was originally a despicable race that was greedy, cunning, bloodthirsty, tyrannical, and despicable. How could they possibly turn over a new leaf? Therefore, the words that Tao Yongxing said 3 days ago, this king didn't believe a single word. From then on, this king predicted that you all would definitely use an even more meticulous plan and gather the most powerful forces to kill this king in one blow. Clap, clap, clap. Tao Yongxing could not resist applauding for Ji Tianqing and said with a cold smile, "What a fine long expected." In the recent several thousand years, the dragon race divine kings that this seat killed were also 80 if not 100. But the majority of the dragon race divine kings were deceived by this seat. Only all the way until this seat raised the butcher's knife did they beg for mercy in astonishment. Only an extremely small number of dragon race divine kings were able to see through this seat's intentions. But they were not calm enough and all fled and resisted in a panic. They would expose their backgrounds and backers, hoping that this seat could let them off. Or take out all kinds of treasures and belongings, hoping that this seat would spare their lives. Speaking up to hear, Tao Yongxing paused for a moment. He stared at Ji Tianqing with a burning gaze and said in a low voice, "Only you are the most special. Not only did you see through this seat's intentions, you could even maintain your calm and composure. Even knowing that death was at hand, you could still be so calm and confident. Those who don't know would think that you set up an ambush for us and wanted to catch us all in one fell swoop. This seat really wants to know, where did your courage and confidence come from?" Even though Tao Yongxing's tone was low and serious, the high priest and several elders still could not help but want to laugh. After all, this was too ironic and too comical. Ji Tianqing put away his cold smile and ridicule, and looked at Tao Yongxing expressionlessly. A cold light flashed in his right hand, and he took out the sword of burial of heaven. "By the sword in this king's hand." His tone was dignified and cold as he shouted coldly and instantly swung his sword at Tao Yongxing. No one was on guard against Ji Tianqing, who was trapped in a tight encirclement and was undoubtedly going to die, but he was actually so decisive and ruthless. He did not wait for Tao Yongxing and the others to make a move, and he actually dared to assassinate Tao Yongxing first. How confident, how courageous was he! However, as the Taotai clan leader and a 9th-level divine king realm expert, Tao Yongxing was extremely scheming and shrewd. He was already prepared for Ji Tianqing's sudden attack, so he was not surprised at all. When the dazzling sword light shone and went straight to his face, he did not hesitate to teleport 1,000 feet away and appeared at the other end of the hall. Swoosh! The dazzling sword light almost brushed past Tao Yongxing's shoulder, but it did not hurt him at all, and he dodged it perfectly. However, Tao Yongxing was strong enough, and he was prepared for it, so he could dodge the sword. The few elders standing behind him could not dodge it in time. Chapter 36-21. Boom! In a spark of flint, the resplendent sword light chopped onto an elder, giving off a muffled thud. A head flew into the sky. Scorching hot divine blood spewed out of the neck, splattering on the other few elders' bodies. Such a horrifying scene made the high priest and the 6 elders somewhat dumbfounded. Even though they knew that Ji Tianqing's strength was not ordinary, comparable to high-ranking divine kings. But they never would have thought that Ji Tianqing's strength was actually daunting to such an extent. The situation was not right. Wasn't he severely injured? Why did he not look like he was injured at all? It seemed like his strength was even stronger than before. These thoughts flashed across Tao Yongxing, the high priest, and the 4 elders' minds at the same time. Thud! Only when the head and headless corpse fell to the ground did the high priest and the few elders come back to their senses. Only then did everyone see clearly that the unlucky fellow decapitated by Ji Tianqing with one sword was precisely third elder Tao Rongxin. The exalted 7th level divine king realm Tao Rongxin actually could not dodge that sword and was instantly beheaded. Even though he only had his divine body destroyed and did not lose his life on the spot, his divine spark still existed. But he already lost his combat strength. The divine spark could only fly out of his head, rushing towards the hall's entrance in a panic. Very clearly, Tao Rongxin was scared silly too. He forgot that the door was already closed. Furthermore, the entire palace was sealed by a divine array. Swoosh! The fist-sized blood-red divine spark flew to the hall's entrance, but could only turn back. At this time, Ji Tianqing brandished the Burial of Heaven sword again, slashing towards Tao Rongxin's divine spark. He wanted to seize the opportunity to pursue and kill Tao Rongxin on the spot, finishing off a formidable foe. Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and the few elders finally calmed down the astonishment in their hearts and hurriedly made a move to intercept. Kill him. Don't be in a daze, attack together. It's hard to dispel the hatred in our hearts if we don't tear him to shreds. Also, his followers and guards must be ground to dust too. Amidst everyone's shouting, they assigned the tasks. 2 elders joined forces to besiege Peng Fei. Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and the 4 elders joined forces to besiege Ji Tianqing. Everyone took out their divine weapons and unleashed their mighty divine power, unleashing their powerful divine skills. Swish! Swish! Instantly, the blood light, scarlet fire, and sword shadows that blotted out the sky and covered the earth filled the entire hall, drowning out the figures of Ji Tianqing and Peng Fei. Peng Fei was besieged by 2 high divine king elders. He couldn't see any hope of survival. His heart was filled with grief and despair. Even if he used all his strength to block, it would be impossible for him to block this attack. He would be killed instantly. However, at this critical moment, he suddenly saw 2 figures appear beside him. Swoosh! Swish! One of them was a middle-aged man from the god race in a green robe, and the other was a stone giant that was 30 meters tall. These 2 middle-level divine kings had appeared in the great battle of the River of Forgetfulness Palace previously. Peng Fei had seen them before and knew that they were Ji Tianqing's guards. He immediately felt more at ease. The green-robed man was Chao Qingyu, and the stone giant was Yank. After the 2 of them appeared, they didn't say a word. Instead, they used all their defensive divine skills to block the attacks of the 2 elders. Bam! 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 The next moment, countless sword shadows collided with the shield and the light wall, creating a deafening explosion. In an instant, the entire hall was filled with raging shockwaves and billions of shards of divine light. Rumble! The palace made of special rocks couldn't withstand the destructive impact and more than half of it collapsed on the spot. The hall that everyone was in turned into rubble. There were broken bricks under their feet, and there were dilapidated walls all around. Chao Qingyu and Yank barely managed to fend off the attacks of the 2 elders and protect Peng Fei. However, the 3 of them were blasted thousands of meters away and smashed into the rubble. Chao Qingyu and Yank were fine. They didn't suffer any substantial injuries. However, Peng Fei was severely injured by the violent divine power. His internal organs were all shattered, and blood kept flowing out of his nose and mouth. On the other side, another figure appeared beside Ji Tianqing. It was a white-haired man from the Phoenix clan with a cold face. It was Bai Feng. Although the 2 of them joined forces and used all their divine skills to block and neutralize the attacks of the 6 Taotai god kings. However, Tao Yongsheng and the high priest were both 9th-stage god kings, and the 2 strongest god kings in the Taotai clan. The Grand Elder, the 2nd Elder, and Tao Yuxing were all high god kings of the 8th and 7th level. Only the seventh elder was slightly weaker. He was a sixth-stage god king. The six of them joined forces and no one could stop them. Ji Tianqing and Bai Feng were also blasted away and smashed into the rubble thousands of meters away. A few walls were smashed into pieces. When the two of them flew out of the rubble, they were covered in broken bricks and stained with blood. They were in a sorry state. The situation in the field was very clear. Ji Tianqing's side had few people and weak strength. They were not the Taotai clan's powerhouses match at all. Luckily, Ji Tianqing destroyed Tao Rongxin's divine body with one sword, making him lose his combat strength. If not for so, they would be besieged by 7 god kings, and their outcome would be even more miserable. Seeing Peng Fei heavily injured and on the verge of collapse, Ji Tianqing hurriedly opened up the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes pagoda and put him away. A battle between god-king powerhouses, a high-ranking god-lord like Peng Fei did not have the qualifications to take part at all. This was also the reason why Tao Yongxing did not arrange for guards inside and outside the palace. Because those divine lord realm guards, no matter how many there were, they could only be cannon fodder. Ha ha ha. Long Tian, this seat knew long ago that you brought along several god-king realm guards with you. But this is all futile. You guys better admit defeat obediently and surrender. Tao Yongxing did not take out a divine weapon. Hands behind his back, he looked at Ji Tianqing with a proud expression, laughing loudly with confidence. The high priest and a few elders also spread out one after another, surrounding Ji Tianqing, Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu, and Yank, the 4 people. Everyone all revealed a smug cold smile, their eyes mocking and cruel. The atmosphere in the field was very stifling. Yank and Chao Qingyu were still considered calm, trusting Ji Tianqing a lot. But Bai Feng was filled with anxiety and worry. She could not resist looking at Ji Tianqing and transmitting her voice, asking, "Your Excellency, what should we do? You definitely have a way to charge out of the heavy encirclement, right?" Ji Tianqing looked straight ahead, his tone calm as he replied, "Of course." As he said, he raised his head and looked at the sky. More than half of the palace collapsed. His gaze was not obstructed, passing through the translucent spatial barrier, looking at the vast and boundless starry sky. The corners of his mouth suddenly revealed a hint of a playful smile. The vast and boundless starry sky is within reach. At such a close distance, the power of that sword technique will definitely increase explosively by several times, right? He muttered to himself, slowly raising the sword of burial of heaven in his right hand, pointing at the boundless starry sky. Then, he shouted in a low voice. "Sword rain!" As he shouted coldly, a formless and mysterious vast power erupted from the sword of burial of heaven and his body. Suddenly, the billions of stars in the vast starry sky were attracted by the mysterious power. Chapter 36-22. Ji Tianqing's behavior was a little strange to Tao Yongxing and the others. They could not understand why this guy did not surrender or fight back. What was he trying to do? What was the use of pointing his sword at the starry sky and shouting for no reason? Just as Tao Yongxing, the high priest, and the others were full of doubts, Tao Yuxing's expression suddenly changed. He pointed at the starry sky and exclaimed, "Oh my God! Look!" The sudden exclamation gave everyone a fright. Tao Yongxing, the high priest, and the elders all looked up at the starry sky. Then, they saw a scene that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. In the gloomy starry sky, tens of thousands of resplendent spots of light lit up. In just a breath's time, more than 30,000 silver light spots descended on the starry cliff like a meteor shower. Then, everyone saw clearly that it was neither light spots nor a meteor shower. It was a total of more than 36,000 starry swords formed by endless starry divine power. Each of the starry swords was more than 3,000 meters long. They looked real, sacred, and majestic. When the 36,000 starry swords passed through the space barrier and entered the starry swallowing grotto heaven, they absorbed half of the starry swallowing grotto heaven's starry divine power and expanded in size. Before the starry swords descended, their terrifying divine power had already shrouded a radius of tens of thousands of miles. The entire starry cliff was shaking. Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and the elders were so suppressed by the terrifying sword power that their faces turned pale. They could not imagine that other than the dragon emperors, there was someone in the world who could use such a terrifying sword Tao divine power. That supreme sword might that was like the rules of the heavenly Tao was enough to destroy everyone's fighting spirit and confidence. At this moment, not only the high priest and the elders were shocked, but fear flashed in their eyes. Even Tao Yongsheng's expression and eyes became extremely solemn. No. This is no longer a sword Tao divine power, but a sword Tao divine rule true meaning. This thought flashed through Tao Yongsheng's mind, and his heart suddenly skipped a beat. He suddenly realized that there might be a change in today's hunting plan. Therefore, he used his secret technique as fast as he could to operate the Supreme Grade King Grade Divine Array at full power. The divine light shield enveloping the palace instantly expanded to a radius of 100 miles, covering the entire starry cliff. Moreover, the protective barrier flickered with dark red divine light, greatly increasing its defensive power. Rumble. In the next moment, more than 36,000 huge starry swords flooded the starry cliff like a torrential flood. All of the starry swords exploded with the most violent power, fiercely slamming into the blood-red divine light shield. Deafening explosions continued to erupt, reverberating endlessly between the heavens and the earth, spreading tens of thousands of miles away. At this moment, other than Tao Yongsheng, the high priest and the other elders all had their hearts in their throats. They were afraid that the divine light barrier would be destroyed, and they would be killed by the divine swords that filled the sky. Fortunately, the blood-red light shield trembled violently and fluctuated crazily. However, only a few cracks appeared on it and it was not destroyed. The first wave of sword rain was blocked by the blood-red light shield. The high priest and several elders heaved a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Tao Yongsheng raised his eyebrows and regained his confident smile. He looked at Ji Tianqing and said, "Ha ha ha. Boy, your attainments in sword Tao are indeed amazing. But unfortunately, your sword technique is flashy without substance. It can't do anything to the divine array that I have set up. After all, it is a supreme grade king grade divine array that I and many other experts have spent a lot of effort to set up. Originally, a 9th degree realm divine king like Tao Yongsheng could not possibly set up a supreme grade king grade divine array. Only peak divine kings and dragon emperor level experts could do it. But this supreme grade king grade divine array was passed down from generation to generation in the Taotai clan. It was also a simpler and easier set-up supreme grade king grade divine array. Ji Tianqing looked at Tao Yongsheng expressionlessly, raised his eyebrows and said, "My sword technique is flashy without substance." Ha! Your divine array is indeed a supreme grade king grade divine array. But unfortunately, it can only be considered as a bottom grade array among the supreme grade king grade divine arrays. Now, I will let you see clearly how weak it is. When his voice fell, his left hand formed a divine art and used a secret technique to secretly control the 9 supreme grade king grade divine artifacts that were buried underground. At the same time, he waved the sword of burial of heaven in his right hand and controlled the 36,000 starry giant swords to attack again. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. More than 36,000 starry giant swords danced and shuttled back and forth at an extremely fast speed. They exploded with violent power and bombarded the blood light shield. Boom! Boom boom boom! The blood light shield that was 100 miles in radius suddenly trembled violently and the divine light shield flashed chaotically. Immediately after, everyone heard 9 consecutive loud rumbling sounds coming from the ground beneath their feet. Suddenly, the ground around the palace ruins cracked and collapsed, and 9 deep pits appeared. There was a destructive divine power shock wave that bloomed with colorful divine light and rushed into the sky with endless dust. The entire starry cliff shook violently and a huge crack appeared. It was on the verge of collapse. But what shocked Tao Yongsheng and the elders even more was that the blood light shield was suddenly damaged and its power was rapidly weakening. The light also became dim and bright. Bang bang bang, boom. Crack. Crack. As the starry swords continued to attack, cracks began to appear on the blood-red light shield, and gaps began to appear one after another. Those cracks and gaps quickly spread out in all directions. Soon, the entire divine formation was riddled with holes and shattered. The high priest and the elders were ashen-faced. They hurriedly released their divine power to help repair the gaps and cracks in the divine array. But it was all in vain. The divine array was collapsing at an extremely fast speed. Tao Yongsheng's expression was also gloomy. He hurriedly used his divine sense to check the situation of the divine array. Only then did he realize that the foundation of the divine array had been destroyed and a few key meridians had been cut off. No wonder. No wonder the divine array suddenly weakened and was shattered by the starry giant swords. That damned Long Tian, he actually knew the structure of this divine array and tampered with it beforehand? Tao Yongsheng immediately guessed the answer. Then, his heart was in turmoil. He was so shocked that he was dumbfounded. Oh my God! He only came 45 minutes early and under the supervision of the elders, he could actually see through the structure of this divine array. Then, isn't his array Dao as powerful as his sword Dao? Has it reached an unimaginable level? Thinking of this, Tao Yongsheng felt his heart palpitate and his mouth go dry. If Tao Changji and Tao Wangchuan were still alive, he would definitely strangle those two fellows by their necks and ask them how they had provoked such a terrifying monster. That's right. In Tao Yongsheng's opinion, Ji Tianxing was a terrifying monster. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 36-23. Accompanied by cracking sounds, the divine formation that enveloped the peak of the starry cliff crumbled and shattered. Hundreds of millions of fragments of divine light poured down like a storm and spread out in all directions like raging waves. Swoosh! The entire peak of starry cliff was swept away. The dilapidated palace was flattened on the spot and not many bricks were left. Tao Yongsheng's trump card was gone and trapping Ji Tianxing and the rest became an extravagant hope. However, this was secondary. The main problem that he and the divine kings of Tao Tai tribe had to face was the attack of the 36,000 starry swords. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Under the control of Ji Tianxing's mind, the 36,000 starry swords formed a sky punishment sword formation that was 10,000 miles wide. Tens of thousands of starry swords formed a light wall and sealed off the area. The other 26,000 starry swords exploded with their fastest speed and most terrifying power as they charged towards Tao Yongsheng and the rest. Boom! Boom boom boom! Suddenly, the starry swords rained down and drowned the entire starry cliff. There was a deafening explosion. Starry Cliff already had a few ravines and it was on the verge of collapse. After being attacked by tens of thousands of starry swords, the cliff cracked and collapsed in all directions. Rocks and soil flew everywhere. Tao Yongsheng and the rest who were attacked by the tens of thousands of starry swords ended up in a miserable state. Tao Yongsheng and the Grand Priest were still fine. After all, they were 9th-level Divine King Realm experts and they could withstand the power of the starry swords. However, the few elders were in trouble. They were covered in wounds and blood splattered everywhere. The most miserable one was the third elder, Tao Rongxin. At the beginning of the battle, his body was destroyed by Ji Tianxing and he was only left with a godhead. When everyone was fighting, his godhead could only hide at the edge to avoid being affected. However, he did not have a chance to escape and he was sealed off by the Sky Punishment Sword formation. Then, his godhead was attacked by hundreds of starry swords and it shattered into pieces. More than a dozen shards of divinity were scattered all over the ruins. With a wave of his hand, Ji Tianqing collected the godhead fragment and stored it in his spatial ring. The Great Elder and Second Elder were both injured by the giant swords that filled the sky. Their robes were dyed with blood, and they looked extremely miserable. The Fourth Elder Tao Yuxing, the Fifth Elder, and the Sixth Elder were all heavily injured by the giant sword. Their bodies were covered with wounds and dripping with blood. As for the weakest Seventh Elder, he was only a sixth-stage realm god king. How could he withstand the bombardment of 10,000 swords? He was smashed into pieces by the tens of thousands of swords, and his divine body was reduced to pieces all over the ground. Only one godhead was left, and it fled in panic, flying toward the edge of the sword formation. Ji Tianqing signaled to Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu, and Yank with his eyes. The three of them immediately understood his intentions and hurriedly chased after the Seventh Elder's godhead. Their mission was very simple, and it was to annihilate the Seventh Elder and obtain his godhead fragments. Ji Tianqing, on the other hand, was fighting against Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and the 5 elders by himself with the heaven-destroying sword formation. Even though he was outnumbered, he had a card up his sleeve and was full of confidence. Yank and Chao Qingyu were not surprised, and only felt that this was a matter of course. Because they had followed Ji Tianqing for a very long time, and had witnessed too many miracles. Bai Feng's feelings were a little complicated. He was both shocked and in awe. It was until now that he understood that right from the start, Ji Tianqing's plan was not only to escape from the encirclement, but also to complete the counterattack and severely injure the Taotai clan's strong practitioners. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he also did not dare to believe that Ji Tianqing actually had such terrifying means to be able to realize his plan. This was simply too dreamy. Little bastard, you're too much. Do you really think that this seat can't deal with you? Tao Yongsheng regained his senses and stared at Ji Tianqing with eyes that were about to split open. His entire body was bursting with murderous intent. Half an hour ago, when they entered the palace, they were originally harboring the belief that they would win, with the mentality of a cat playing with a mouse. But now, the situation had been reversed. Ji Tianqing and the rest were safe and sound, but they had fallen into a passive state, suffering heavy casualties. This was simply too ironic. Tao Yongxing felt that he had to take out his trump card and ultimate skills in order to win back some ground. He took out a huge pitch-black God's clock and injected divine power into it, activating the God's clock. Suddenly, the pitch-black God's clock, which was the size of a fist, expanded to a height of 10,000 feet, as big as a mountain. Under his control, the God's clock floated above the ruins of the starry cliff, releasing a dazzling crimson light to resist the heaven-destroying sword formation. Swoosh! Swoosh! Meanwhile, he, the Grand Priest, and a few elders flew below the God's clock and hid within the crimson light shield. With the protection of the pitch-black God's clock, the starry giant swords that were flying and shuttling in the sky were all blocked by the crimson light. No matter how the starry giant swords attacked, Tao Yongsheng and the elders were safe and sound. He. Young man, although your dragon clan rules this world and is supreme, our Taotai clan is not to be trifled with either. This is the treasure of our clan, the primordial chaos bell. Tao Yongsheng stood under the crimson light and glared at Ji Tianqing fiercely as he spoke arrogantly. The primordial chaos bell? Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and a dark look flashed across his eyes. He had heard of the God's clock's great reputation 1,000 years ago. Before the Antiquity Age, when heaven and earth had just been created, the dragon realm was barren and there were not tens of thousands of demon clans. At that time, the dragon, phoenix, and qilin were the leaders, the 4 sacred beasts were the assistants, and the 7 ancestors of the demon clan were the backbone of the power. They worked together to create heaven and earth and divided the 4 seas and 5 continents. As the earliest demon clans to appear in the dragon realm, all the clans had obtained Khanate treasures from the chaos. For example, the primordial chaos bell of the Taotai clan was one of the Khanate treasures. It was a Supreme King-level divine weapon that was tainted with a trace of the power of the heavenly way. It was sacred and majestic, and it was immensely powerful. Of course, compared to the Khanate treasures of the Dragon, Wind, and Chelan clans, its grade and power were slightly weaker. However, to the other demon clans and divine kings, the primordial chaos bell was already a powerful and invincible treasure. Ji Tianqing stared at the pitch-black god's clock and muttered to himself, if it is really the primordial chaos bell, then they are in an invincible position. Killing them is harder than ascending to the heavens. As expected. He used his mind to control more than 26,000 great starry swords and launched a violent attack on Tao Yongsheng and the others. Unfortunately, all the great starry swords were blocked by the primordial chaos bell. No matter how powerful the great starry swords were, they could not shake that thin layer of red light. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing was basically sure that the god's clock was the primordial chaos bell, a Supreme King-level divine weapon. He knew that his counterattack plan was about to fail, so he wanted to retreat. With the heaven-destroying sword formation holding back Tao Yongsheng and the others, he wanted to bring Bai Feng, Yank, and Chao Qingyu and quickly leave the star-devouring grotto heaven. Anyway, the 7th Elder's godhead had already been destroyed by Bai Feng and the other 2. When Bai Feng returned to his side, she brought back more than 10 godhead fragments. Therefore, Ji Tianqing took the godhead fragments and decisively chose to retreat. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 36-24. Let's go. Ji Tianqing bellowed as he led Bai Feng, Yank, and Chao Qingyu out of the sword formation. The Taotai tribe had tried to kill him and steal his bloodline. He had wanted to teach the Taotai tribe an unforgettable lesson by killing at least 6 or 7 upper god kings. However, looking at the current situation, this plan was destined to fail. However, he had not lost anything. Instead, he had killed Tao Rongxin and the 7th elder and injured a few other elders. No matter how he looked at it, he had profited. He had no regrets leaving the star-swallowing cave. However, Tao Yongsheng and the Taotai tribe's god kings were filled with anger and killing intent. They were unwilling to let him go. Swallow the heavens and earth. Seeing that Ji Tianqing and the rest were about to leave, Tao Yongsheng panicked and bellowed angrily. Then, he, the Grand Priest, and a few other elders worked together to cast a spell. They poured their divine power into the primordial chaos bell. In an instant, the primordial chaos bell lit up with crimson light and covered the sky. With the primordial chaos bell as the center, the area within 1,000 miles turned into a crimson whirlpool. The whirlpool spun rapidly and released a power that could swallow everything. It swallowed all the starry swords that were flying in the sky. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of starry swords were swallowed by the crimson whirlpool. They were dissolved and scattered. The primordial chaos bell was like a bottomless abyss that could swallow everything. No matter how fierce the starry swords were, they were all turned into its food. In just 2 breaths, 2,000 starry swords were swallowed and dissolved by the primordial chaos bell. Ji Tianqing led Bai Feng and the rest out of the heaven-destroying sword formation and stood in the dark sky. Seeing this scene, he also frowned, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Damn it! As expected of the Taotai tribe's divine item. It can swallow everything. Looks like my heaven-destroying sword formation cannot trap them and will not be able to delay them for long. In the past, Ji Tianqing didn't know much about the Taotai clan. Now, he realized that the Taotai clan's power was far stronger than he had imagined. It couldn't be helped. 1,000 years ago, when he was in the Dragon Realm, it was during his rapid growth period. At that time, he went from the heavenly deity realm to the divine lord realm, and then to the divine king realm. When he reached the fourth level of the Divine King realm, he left the Dragon realm for the God realm. Therefore, the Dragon realm only knew that the peerless genius Long Tian was like a flash in the pan, and had once bloomed in the Dragon realm. Only the experts and forces of the celestial world knew of Kenshin's prowess. In comparison, Ji Tianqing had a clearer understanding of the divine world's power structure and the various paradise. Young master, should we continue to deal with them? Chao Qingyu gripped the green jade divine sword tightly as he glared at Tao Yongsheng and the others. No need, we should go. Ji Tianqing shook his head and decisively led Bai Feng and the others towards the south. Swoosh! The four of them were extremely fast. They cut across the dark sky like lightning and headed straight for the Taotai clan's camp. After flying for more than 20,000 miles, Ji Tianqing suddenly stopped and turned towards the southwest. Swoosh! He teleported 8,000 miles and appeared in a canyon filled with starlight. Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu, and Yang didn't know what was going on. They hurriedly followed him and looked at him with confusion. Before they could ask, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and shot out a ray of golden light into the deep canyon. He plucked 2 basin-sized silver flowers. The 2 lotus-like flowers with 9 petals looked as hard as steel and as cold as stone. They shone with dazzling starlight. This was the star-devouring flower, an upper king-grade treasure unique to the star-devouring paradise. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing was extremely fast. He only took a glance to confirm that the 2 star-devouring flowers were fine. He kept them in his interspatial ring. Then, he swung the burial of heaven and slashed 8 times. Swoosh! 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 Bam! 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 With a series of muffled sounds, the 8 dazzling giant swords slashed into the mountains on both sides of the canyon. In an instant, the 2 majestic mountain ranges were sliced into 2 huge chunks. Each mountain was 100 miles wide and contained extremely rich star ores and all kinds of gems. If they were refined, they would be able to extract billions of star ores and all kinds of gems from the 2 mountains. Unfortunately, Ji Tianqing didn't have the time to refine them. Therefore, he used the simplest and crudest method. He cut off the 2 mountains from the 2 mountains and kept them in his interspatial ring. He would slowly refine them in the future. Swoosh! Swoosh! Ji Tianqing quickly kept the 2 mountains and continued to fly south with Bai Feng and the other 2. Along the way, Bai Feng couldn't hold back her curiosity and asked, "Master, how do you know that there are treasures and rich mineral resources here?" Ji Tianqing replied calmly, "On the way to the starry cliff, I already used my divine sense to investigate. If we don't take anything with us when we come to the starry swallowing grotto heaven, wouldn't it be a big loss?" That makes sense. Bai Feng was stunned for a moment and quickly nodded in agreement. Chao Qingyu and Yang smiled but didn't say anything. They thought to themselves, this white-feathered phoenix still doesn't know young master's character and is asking such meaningless questions. Next, Ji Tianqing and the others flew south. Along the way, he stopped 3 times. Every time he stopped, he would pluck 1 or 2 star-devouring flowers and plunder 1 or 2 star ores. The starry swallowing grotto heaven didn't lack star ores and gems. In this way, Ji Tianqing continued to plunder resources worth 4 to 500 billion star ores. However, he also wasted a few dozen breaths of time. On the ruins of the starry cliff, Tao Yongsheng and a few elders were casting spells to control the primordial chaos bell and madly devouring the star ores. After 70 breaths of time, more than 36,000 star ores were all devoured by the primordial chaos bell. The heaven punishment sword formation disappeared and Tao Yongsheng and the others' crisis was resolved. Therefore, Tao Yongsheng kept the primordial chaos bell and led the high priest and a few elders to the south in a rage. "Damn beast, don't let me catch him. I'm going to smash him into pieces and grind his bones to dust." You've been hunting geese all day and you let the geese peck your eyes. This is intolerable. They've escaped to our campsite. Don't let them wreak havoc in our campsite and kill our people. Tao Yongsheng, the high priest and the others rushed to the campsite as fast as they could and cursed angrily and worriedly. Originally, they were worried that the heaven punishment sword formation would delay them for too long and they wouldn't be able to catch up with Ji Tianqing and the others. However, when they chased near the campsite of the Tao Tai tribe, they found traces of Ji Tianqing and the others. At this time, Ji Tianqing and the others were near the campsite. They swung their swords and cut off a mountain range. They dug away a mountain without any scruples. Tao Yongsheng and the high priest had sharp eyes. They could tell at a glance that it wasn't an ordinary mountain but a mine that contained star ores. Seeing this, Tao Yongsheng was instantly enraged. Chapter 36-25. Despicable Thief. While he was running away, he still wanted to plunder our tribe's resources. Tao Yongsheng roared furiously. His entire body was burning with rage. The grand priest's face darkened. He gritted his teeth and cursed, "This audacious bastard, he really doesn't know what's good for him. It has always been our tribe plundering the other tribes. I didn't expect him to. This is too despicable." The few elders were also furious. They waved their divine weapons and charged over with murderous intent. However, when both parties were still 5,000 miles away, Ji Tianqing and the rest noticed them. Ji Tianqing hurriedly kept a mine into his space ring. He brought Bai Feng and the rest and flew into the Tao Tai tribe's camp at lightning speed. Seeing this, Tao Yongsheng and the grand priest's eyelids twitched. They had a bad feeling in their hearts. In the next moment, their premonition came true. Originally, the Tao Tai tribe's camp was very peaceful. On the barren land with a radius of 10,000 miles, there were a few hundred palaces and mansions scattered around. Thousands of people from the Tao Tai tribe stayed in the various palaces and mansions. They were cultivating in seclusion as usual. However, Ji Tianqing and the rest performed their divine skill with all their might. They released an earth-shattering divine skill light shadow that poured down on the camp. Boom! 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 Suddenly, the peaceful Tao Tai tribe's camp exploded with five-colored divine light that shot up to the sky. There was a deafening loud noise. At least a few dozen palaces were blasted into ruins by the divine skill light shadow. Hundreds of millions of bricks and stone fragments splattered everywhere. At the same time, a few hundred people from the Tao Tai tribe died tragically under the bombardment of the divine skill light shadow. The earth-shattering explosion, countless people from the Tao Tai tribe roared in pain, and the tragic cries of those on the verge of death woke up the surrounding Tao Tai tribe. Suddenly, the entire camp was in an uproar and fell into chaos. Countless people from the Tao Tai tribe were filled with fear and confusion. They hurriedly rushed out of the palaces and mansions and flew into the sky to check the situation. It was a pity that before they could figure out what was going on, they were drowned by the divine skill light shadow. Dragon Elephant Divine Fist. Breaking Sun Sword. Great Rotating Sacred Sword. Ji Tianqing was the most valiant. He brandished his left fist and his right hand brandished his sword. In a breath's time, he displayed three ultimate skills. Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu, and Yank were not to be outdone either. They unleashed their strongest attacks and used their most destructive moves. Boom boom boom. In the next instant, another few tens of palaces were blasted into ruins by blade lights and sword shadows, and over 1,000 members of the Tao Tai clan were slaughtered miserably. Even those upper Divine Lord Realm guards and lower Divine King Realm deacons could not withstand Ji Tianqing's slaughter. Hundreds of hotshots of the Tao Tai clan fell from the sky like dumplings. Blood rained down from the sky. There were also several hundred weaker Tao Tai clansmen. They were still in the palaces and courtyards, but they had been blasted into smithereens. Tao Yongsheng, the grand priest, and a few other elders witnessed this scene with their own eyes. They were so angry that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets as they gritted their teeth. Although the Taotai clansmen that Ji Tianqing and the rest slaughtered did not have a true powerhouse. But those Taotai clansmen were the backbone of the Taotai clan, their future hope. Ji Tianqing's deranged massacre made God knows how many elites and geniuses perished prematurely in the Taotai clan. One could foresee that within the next 1,000 years, the Taotai clan's power would be greatly reduced. The new generation of divine king powerhouses would be so few that it would make one's hair stand on end. To a clan, this was absolutely a heavy blow. Ah! Long Tian, this seat swears that I absolutely won't let you escape from the star-devouring grotto heaven alive. Tao Yongsheng was driven mad with rage, his voice roaring like a great bell. However, after Ji Tianqing and the rest cast spells and slaughtered the Taotai clansmen, they fled without the slightest hesitation. Swoosh! They all erupted with the fastest speed, akin to an aurora tearing across the firmament, speeding towards the south. Tao Yongsheng, the grand priest, and a few other elders hurriedly followed, unleashing a pursuit in a towering rage. However, when flying over the ruined campsite's airspace, Tao Yongsheng still hesitated for a bit. Seeing that there were still many clansmen lucky enough to survive in the ruins, he could not help ordering, "Grand Elder, you bring the 3 elders to go and rescue the clansmen who survived. Especially those guards, elite disciples, and geniuses, you must think of a way to save them." This Grand Elder was immediately stunned, falling into hesitation and weighing the pros and cons. Although he was so furious that he exploded, and very much wanted to follow the patriarch and the grand priest to hunt down Ji Tianqing and the rest. But he knew that while revenge was important, rescuing the clansmen who survived was even more important. Hence, he could only nod his head and say that he complied. After that, he brought the 3 elders and stayed behind, descending into the ruined campsite at top speed, and rescuing those heavily injured clansmen. Tao Yongsheng, the grand priest, and Tao Yuxing swept over the campsite's airspace without stopping, chasing towards the south. As time flowed by, the distance between both parties continuously pulled closer. 4,000 miles, 3,000 miles, 2,000 miles, looking like in another 10 breaths of time, Tao Yongsheng would catch up to Ji Tianqing and the rest. And at this time, Ji Tianqing and the rest were only 10,000 miles away from the southernmost part of the star-devouring grotto heaven. Tao Yongsheng suddenly reacted, and immediately frowned, a cold light flashing in his eyes. They want to escape to the exit of the star-devouring grotto heaven and return to the dragon realm through the exit. Hearing this, the grand priest and Tao Yuxing were both stunned. Then, the grand priest frowned and said, "Only us and the few elders know the secret method to open the exit. He doesn't know the method to open it, and even if he uses the technique to break it, it will take a long time. They can't escape, we can catch him." Tao Yongsheng and Tao Yuxing also thought so, and their eyes shone with a hopeful light. However, something unexpected happened. Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu, and Yank, who were flying at top speed, were suddenly enveloped by a white light and disappeared into thin air. Obviously, Ji Tianqing had taken them into the Jiutian 10 Absolutes Pagoda. Firstly, their speed was relatively slow, and they would be caught soon. Secondly, their mission had been completed, and there was no point in continuing to follow Ji Tianqing. Just like this, Ji Tianqing burst out with an unbelievable speed and rushed toward the exit by himself. Originally, the distance between Tao Yongsheng and him had been reduced to 800 miles. Ji Tianqing suddenly accelerated, and the distance between the two of them increased to more than 500 miles. Even so, Tao Yongsheng was not worried and continued to chase without slacking. He thought that as long as Ji Tianqing escaped to the exit and used the technique to break the divine array, he would definitely be able to catch up. At that time, He would definitely use the primal chaos primordial bell to capture and suppress Ji Tianqing as soon as possible and not give him a chance to resist. Whoosh! After a few breaths, Ji Tianqing escaped to the southern edge of the star-devouring grotto heaven. 10 miles ahead was the exit of the star-devouring grotto heaven. It was a white light vortex that was hundreds of meters tall. Behind the white light vortex was a translucent spatial barrier. Just as he flew to the exit, Ji Tianqing waved his hands and made a hand seal to open the exit. Tao Yongsheng, the Grand Priest, and Tao Yuxing, who had rushed over, were stunned when they saw his familiar and precise movements. Chapter 36-26 D***, what the hell? How did that guy know our secret technique? Could it be that there's a traitor among us? Who is it? Who leaked the method to open the exit? Tao Yongsheng, the High Priest, and Tao Yuxing all looked as if they had seen a ghost. They could not believe that Ji Tianqing had actually mastered the method to open the exit. Moreover, he was extremely skilled and used only 2 breaths of time to successfully open the spatial passage. Such speed was not inferior to the High Priest and the Grand Elder at all. As a result, the 3 of them could not help but think that there might be a traitor among the elders and deacons. Someone had taught Ji Tianqing the method to open the exit. Otherwise, it did not make sense at all. At this time, they had not realized the truth of the matter. Ji Tianqing had refined Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji's godheads and learned the method to open the exit from their divine soul memories. Of course, it would take a few days for them to calm down and think about it carefully before they could guess the truth. Swoosh! The white light vortex opened and a pitch-black spatial passage appeared in the middle. Ji Tianqing did not hesitate and jumped into the white light vortex and was swallowed by the endless darkness. The next moment, he left the star-devouring grotto heaven and appeared in the abyss shrouded in clouds. Whoosh! He rushed out of the abyss as fast as an aurora and sped towards the north. Immediately after, Tao Yongsheng, the High Priest, and Tao Yuxing, who had regained their senses, also passed through the white light vortex and left the star-devouring grotto heaven. They appeared in the pitch-black abyss. At this time, Ji Tianqing had already flown thousands of miles away. However, Tao Yongsheng had no intention of giving up. He immediately led the High Priest and Tao Yuxing to chase after Ji Tianqing. Both parties flew across the sky one after the other, speeding through the sky at a speed faster than the aurora. Previously in the star-devouring grotto heaven, Ji Tianqing was carrying by Feng, Yank, and the others, so he could not burst out with his fastest speed. At this moment, he was flying across the sky alone and raised his speed to the limit. Only then did Tao Yongsheng, the High Priest, and Tao Yuxing, who were chasing after him, witness his true strength and speed. It was no exaggeration to say that Ji Tianqing could travel 20 million miles in a single day when he flew at full speed. Among the 3 people, only Tao Yongsheng could keep up. Both the High Priest and Tao Yuxing were slower and would definitely be shaken off. However, Tao Yongsheng could not chase after Ji Tianqing alone. He had to bring along the High Priestess and Tao Yuxing in order to have the confidence to deal with Ji Tianqing, Bai Feng, and the others. He couldn't move as fast as he could, and he still had to take care of the High Priest and Tao Yuxing. He was exhausted and helpless. After 2 hours of pursuit, Ji Tianqing had left the 3 of them behind by 20,000 li. At this rate, in at most 10 hours, Ji Tianqing would be 100,000 miles away from them. 100,000 miles had already exceeded the range of Tao Yongsheng and the High Priest's divine senses. At that time, they would definitely be shaken off by Ji Tianqing. At the thought of this, Tao Yongsheng was filled with anxiety, gnashing his teeth in anger. "I'm not waiting for you guys. This seat will go and chase after that guy first. The 2 of you follow behind." Tao Yongsheng gritted his teeth and made up his mind. He wanted to speed up and chase after Ji Tianqing. But the High Priest and Tao Yuxing's expressions changed, hurriedly reaching out to pull him back. Clan head, don't be rash. Clan head, this must not happen. The high priest and Tao Yuxing were filled with worry, urging in an anxious tone, Clan head, even if you can catch up to that bastard, you're alone while he has several helpers. If you are surrounded by them and something happens to you, our clan's losses will be too disastrous. Yeah. To date, we've already lost thousands of clan members, many elites and genius disciples. If something happens to you, our clan will definitely be unable to recover from this setback and decline day by day. How could Tao Yongxing not think of this? However, he couldn't just watch as Ji Tianqing escaped right under his nose. He could not take this lying down. Then what else can this Sikh do? The two of you are too slow. At this rate, we'll be shaken off very soon. Tao Yongxing frowned fiercely and growled angrily. Tao Yuxing revealed a deep sense of shame and hurriedly blamed himself and apologized. The high priest frowned and thought for a moment. Suddenly, he had an idea. He stared at Tao Yongxing with a burning gaze and asked in a serious tone, Clan head, are you sure you're not going to let that brat off and must kill him? Nonsense. Tao Yongxing replied in annoyance, we've already formed a blood feud with him. There's only an outcome of life and death. If we don't kill him, how can the thousands of people of our clan die in peace? If we can't strip him of the dragon race bloodline, the golden-winged great rock and the phoenix race bloodline, wouldn't our efforts be in vain? Furthermore, now that things have developed to this stage, our Tao Tai clan has lost all face. We must kill him to cover up this matter. The high priest nodded slightly and said in a serious tone, all right. Since the clan head has made up his mind, then I have an idea. It's unrealistic to want to kill him with just the three of us. Isn't he escaping towards the north? With his current speed, he'll enter the Ganyang region in at most 2 days. Coincidentally, the Cheongqi clan's Nebula Grotto Heaven is in the north of the Ganyang region. We can ask the Cheongqi clan to help us. With a pincer attack, we can definitely kill Long Tian. Hearing the high priest's reminder, Tao Yongxing's eyes lit up. However, after thinking carefully, he frowned again. Ask the Cheongqi clan for help. Although our clan and the Cheongqi clan have formed an alliance and are as close as brothers, our clans are also divided. Our clans appear to be united on the surface but are divided at heart. We each have our own thoughts and schemes. If I take the initiative to ask the Cheongqi clan for help, they will definitely demand an exorbitant price and take the opportunity to extort us. In fact, after they know that Long Tian has the dragon race bloodline, they might even snatch it. At that time, even if we kill Long Tian, we might not be able to obtain his dragon race bloodline. Tao Yongxing's words made the high priest and Tao Yuxing frown, their expressions somewhat solemn. After a moment of silence, the high priest continued, Clan head, since you insist on killing Long Tian, then you have to make some sacrifices. As for the Cheongqi clan's conditions, you should be able to discuss it with their clan head personally. If you insist on obtaining the dragon race bloodline, then you have to make it clear in advance. If you're worried, then apart from asking the Cheongqi clan for help, we can also send a message to the territorial lords. The Clear Sky Territorial Lord, the Ganyang Territorial Lord, and the territorial lords of the 2 surrounding territories can also help. Tao Yongxing frowned and remained silent. After pondering for a long time, he nodded and agreed to the high priest's suggestion. Forget it. Looks like this is the safest method for now. Then I'll send a message to them personally. Finished speaking, Tao Yongxing took out one transmission jade slip after another and sent messages to the Cheongqi clan and the territorial lords. Chapter 36-27. Not long after, Tao Yongxing received replies from various factions. After reading the replies, his expression was a little complicated. It was just as he had guessed. After the 4 domain lords received his message, they all agreed without hesitation. Especially Clear Sky Domain Lord and Ganyang Domain Lord, they agreed without even asking about the reward and conditions. After all, the star-devouring grotto heaven was in Clear Sky Domain, and Ganyang Domain was next door. These two domain lords were more familiar with the Taotai clan, and they had to rely on the Taotai clan and Cheongqi clan to be able to sit firmly in their positions. Tao Yongxing personally sent a message to ask for their help. How could they dare to refuse? The other two domain lords mentioned the reward and asked about Long Tian's basic situation. But they did not hesitate and agreed immediately, giving Tao Yongxing face. Only the Cheongqi clan was very difficult to deal with. The Cheongqi clan leader did not agree to Tao Yongxing's request, nor did he refuse directly. Instead, he patiently asked who he wanted to kill. What was that person's appearance, and characteristics? What was his cultivation level? What bloodline was he from? What divine weapon did he use? What special abilities and talents did he have? Why did that person become enemies with the Taotai clan? What happened before? The Taotai clan had many experts, how could they need help? There must be something strange about this, right? In short, the Cheongqi clan leader was very suspicious, and his questions were very detailed. Everything he said revealed a message. He had to pay more. Tao Yongxing patiently explained the basic situation of Long Tian and the things that had happened before. Of course, he skimmed over all the embarrassing and humiliating matters of the Taotai clan so as to avoid being ridiculed by Patriarch Cheongqi. As expected. The Cheongqi Patriarch pondered for a long time before replying to him. He could help with this. But he proposed a huge reward and added two conditions that gave Tao Yongxing a headache. First, Tao Yongxing had to take out 300 billion worth of ore. Second, the Taotai clan had to give the Cheongqi clan a star stone vein every 100 years. Then, the Taotai clan had to withdraw 50% of their properties in Ganyang Domain and give them to the Cheongqi clan. It was really an exorbitant demand. After Tao Yongxing finished reading the jade slip, he was so angry that he directly crushed the jade slip into pieces. He almost cursed out loud. "Despicable and shameless bastard, why don't you just rob me?" Tao Yongxing roared furiously. His face was distorted with anger. The high priest and Tao Yuxing were very nervous. They waited until his anger had mostly dissipated before carefully asking for the reason. When they heard the Cheongqi clan leader's conditions, the two of them were filled with anger and cursed. "Damned beast! When my clan helped the Cheongqi clan in the past, when have I ever been as ruthless as him? If he doesn't want to help, then forget it." Tao Yongxing cursed, then took out his jade slip and sent a message back to Cheongqi. "Patriarch Xueshang, our two clans are allies. Originally, I had high hopes and trust in you. However, I'm very disappointed with the conditions you've proposed. Sorry to disturb you. Just pretend that I didn't say anything." Tao Yongxing's reply was calm and cold. However, not long after, Xueshang, the Cheongqi clan leader, actually replied to his message. Shua! The jade slip flew over from the sky and landed in front of Tao Yongxing. He reached out to take the jade slip and sent his divine sense into it. Instantly, Xueshang's hearty laughter rang out in his mind. "Ha ha ha! Brother Tao, calm down. I was just joking with you just now. Since we're brothers in an alliance, of course, we have to help each other. Only then can we grow stronger and last forever. Since Brother Tao is in trouble, how can I just stand by and do nothing? How about this? I'll eliminate the second condition. I only want 300 billion worth of ores. In the future, Brother Tao will give me a star or vein every 100 years. Without a doubt, the Cheongqi clan leader's harsh conditions were just to test Tao Yongxing's bottom line. Seeing that Tao Yongxing rejected him decisively, the Cheongqi clan leader lowered the reward and conditions. Tao Yongxing's anger dissipated by more than half. He patiently replied to the Cheongqi clan leader, and the two of them began to bargain. After 3 messages, the two of them finally reached a consensus. The Taotai clan only needed to pay 300 billion worth of ores. In addition, they would give the Cheong Chi clan a star or vein every 200 years until they filled up 10 ore veins. This result, the two clan leaders could both accept it. Huff. This damn fellow, finally settled it. After reaching the deal, Tao Yongsheng heaved a sigh in relief and cursed under his breath. Although the deal was settled, there was a thorn stuck in his heart from beginning to end. No matter how he calculated, he felt that he lost out greatly. Previously, in the star-devouring grotto heaven, not only did he fail to kill Long Tian, he even let him heavily damage the Taotai clan's camp, damaging the Taotai clan's foundation. Now, in order to request the Cheong Chi clan to take action and help, he had to bleed heavily again. Calculating carefully, this life of Long Tian's was worth more than 3 trillion. Such a horrifying value, it was almost catching up to the son of the Dragon Emperor, right? At the thought of this, Tao Yongsheng was depressed until he wanted to vomit blood, wishing to tear Tao Wangchuan and Tao Zhangji into pieces. 2 fools. How did they provoke Long Tian, and even bring him into the star-devouring grotto heaven? The origin of all of this was Tao Wangchuan and Tao Zhangji. If not for the two of them murdering for wealth, the Taotai clan would not be in such a sorry state. Right at this time, the high priest by the side opened his mouth and asked, "Patriarch, you've reached an agreement with Patriarch Cheong Chi?" Tao Yongsheng nodded his head slightly and said, "The terms are already settled." The high priest nodded his head to indicate that he understood and asked, "Then will he personally take action? How many people is he bringing?" Tao Yongsheng was stunned for a bit and said with a frown, "Didn't ask about this. This seat will send a message to ask." Finished talking, he took out a transmission jade slip again and sent it to Patriarch Cheong Chi, Xueshang. This time, Xueshang only replied to him after an hour. When Tao Yongsheng saw the reply in the transmission jade slip, he was immediately unable to restrain his anger, his nose crooked from anger. "Brother Tao, this seat is currently in closed seclusion cultivating a divine art. I seriously can't leave and can't take action personally. However, this seat sent the left protector and 3 elders, plus the blood slaughter hall's 100 elites. That's enough, right?" These were Patriarch Cheong Chi's original words, his tone revealing the meaning of, "I'll handle it, you can rest assured." Tao Yongsheng was so angry that his face was livid. He hurriedly sent a message to Xueshang, requesting him to send more people and high-ranking divine kings. He emphasized to Xueshang that although the target to kill this time, Long Tian, was not a high-ranking divine king, he surpassed a high-ranking divine king. However, Xueshang's reply revealed a tone of indifference. Just a Dragon Clan youth who hasn't made a name for himself. Even if he has some means, how powerful can he be? Brother Tao, you also said that Long Tian is not your match. Since that's the case, my clan's left protector and 3 elders will only assist you in intercepting Long Tian. The person who really takes action to kill Long Tian is still you, Brother Tao. Could it be that you don't want to take revenge personally? Chapter 36-28. Tao Yongsheng was instantly speechless as he found it hard to refute. It was all a disaster caused by his face. When he told Xueshang about what happened earlier, explaining Ji Tianqing's situation, he didn't divulge the fact that Taotai clan had suffered heavy losses. Xueshang even asked him who was stronger between him and Long Tian. He replied without any hesitation that of course he was stronger. How could Long Tian be mentioned in the same breath as him? Rubbish. He was Taotai clan's clan leader, a 9th stage realm god king. Did he not want his face? Other than Dragon Emperor who ruled various continents, he was known to be invincible under the God Emperor, not fearing any God King's existence. To make him admit that Long Tian was very powerful, making him helpless, that was just too embarrassing. So now it resulted in such an outcome. Xueshang didn't pay too much attention to it, and from the men he sent out, it was a little perfunctory. Unfortunately, Tao Yongxing had already said that, so he couldn't slap his own face. Even if he was bitter and angry, he could only accept it. High priest who was by the side hurriedly consoled after understanding the situation. Patriarch, please calm down. That Long Tian is indeed nothing to be afraid of. As long as Cheongqi clan's experts help to stop him, you can easily kill him alone. Tao Yongxing's face turned black. This seat also knows this logic, but this seat just can't stand it. This seat spent such a huge price to invite Cheongqi clan to help. In the end, Xueshang didn't take action personally and only sent the left guardian and 3 elders. This is just too perfunctory. High priest also frowned as he was filled with resentment and didn't know how to console Tao Yongxing. Hence, he pointed to the sky in front and changed the topic. Clan leader, we've been chasing after Long Tian for 8 hours. His speed has been maintained at its peak condition and he has already left us in the dust by 80,000 miles. In another hour's time, he will leave our soul trace detection range. By then, if he changes his flying direction, we'll easily lose him. Tao Yongxing waved his hand and said in an indifferent tone, no need to worry. Earlier when we exchanged blows with him, this seat had injured him. This seat intentionally used the soul-devouring flame's energy which remained in his wounds and body, so it's very hard to remove. If we lose him, this king will only need to spend a little time and effort to track the soul-devouring flame's aura and estimate his approximate location. As long as he's still in the clear sky and dry sun regions, he won't be able to escape my pursuit. Hearing his words, the high priest and Tao Yuxing heaved a sigh of relief and revealed looks of admiration. Patriarch is indeed far-sighted. Patriarch is wise. The two of them hurriedly flattered him. Tao Yongxing's mood improved, and his anger gradually dissipated. 10 hours later. The corners of Ji Tianqing's mouth curled up into a sneer as he sped through the sky like an aurora. It's been 10 hours, and we've already left the star-devouring grotto heaven by 8 million kilometers, yet they're still chasing. He was really persistent. Looks like Tao Yong's anger isn't light. He won't rest until he kills me. Unfortunately, I've already shaken all of you off by 50,000 kilometers, and even your divine senses can't detect me. So how are all of you going to pursue me? As he spoke, he suddenly changed his direction from north to northwest while maintaining his speed. Not long after, Tao Yongxing and the other two arrived at this place and continued to chase northward. Ji Tianqing had already flown 50,000 kilometers in the northwest direction, and the distance between the two sides would only increase. In the short term, Tao Yongxing and the other two were destined to not be able to catch up to him. About an hour later, Ji Tianqing slowed down his flying speed and used his divine sense to observe behind him. After observing for a long time and not seeing Tao Yongxing and the other two following, he was sure that Tao Yongxing and the other two had lost them. Hence, he took out the Burial of Heaven sword and let the Burial of Heaven sword continue flying while he entered the sword world to handle matters. In a remote place in the sword world, he took out the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes pagoda and placed it in the belly of the mountain. He entered the divine pagoda and went to the 3rd, 4th, and distorted spacetime to check on everyone's injuries. Bai Feng was on the 3rd level of the divine pagoda, staying in the endless dark and cold wasteland, silently circulating her energy to heal her injuries. Although Bai Feng's injuries were very serious, they were not life-threatening. Ji Tianqing checked, left a pile of divine pills and origin stones for her, and told her to focus on healing her injuries before leaving. Ping Fei was on the 4th level of the divine pagoda, sitting cross-legged above the endless sea. His injuries were the most miserable, and his physical body had almost been destroyed. His divine Tao foundation was also affected, and his divine power aura was very weak. Ji Tianqing personally used a secret technique to heal his injuries and poured a large amount of divine power into him. As a result, Peng Fei's injuries stabilized and did not continue to worsen. He opened his eyes and bowed to Ji Tianqing to thank him. Ji Tianqing looked at him calmly and asked, "Ever since you came out with me to explore the world, you have almost lost your life twice. Do you regret it?" Peng Fei pursed his lips and did not speak. He shook his head with a determined gaze. Ji Tianqing smiled and continued, "If you regret it, you can leave at any time. I really don't understand you. Why don't you just stay in the 9 mystical caves heaven and be a Peng disciple?" Peng Fei was stunned and asked in astonishment, "Senior, how did you know that I am a disciple of the 9 mystical caves heaven?" Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "Is it that hard to guess? The Dragon Realm has a total of 33 caves heaven, and the Astral Source Continent has 9. Among these 9 caves heaven, only the 9 mystical caves heaven is the Golden Rock race's nest. The Golden Rock race's bloodline is thin, and they are not as good at reproduction as the other demon races. Thus, the Golden Rock race treasures their bloodline the most, and almost no descendants are left outside. Even if there is a Golden Rock bloodline outside, once the Golden Rock race finds out, they will think of a way to find it." This. Peng Fei was a little stunned. He scratched his head and asked, "Senior, you know so much about my race. Do you have some relationship with my race?" Ji Tianqing smiled and said playfully, "I don't have any relationship with the Golden Rock race, but I have a good relationship with the Dragon Kings and Dragon Emperors of the 4 seas and 5 continents. Of course, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor of the Astral Source Continent is an exception." Peng Fei was stunned. He asked, "So, you plan to leave the Astral Source Continent and go to other continents?" Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "I do plan to do so, but before I leave the Astral Source Continent, I want to go to a place." "Where?" Peng Fei asked instinctively. "The 9 mystical caves heaven," Ji Tianqing answered. Peng Fei's expression changed instantly. He begged with a bitter face, "Senior, please don't send me back. Although I know that I am weak and can't help you, I will always be a burden to you." Ji Tianqing waved his hand and explained, "I am not going to the 9 mystical caves heaven to send you back. I am going to find your Golden Rock patriarch or tribe leader." "Find our patriarch or tribe leader?" Peng Fei was even more confused. "Yes." Ji Tianqing nodded and said in a low voice, "I am going to ask them for information and verify something." Book House Reading Website. Chapter 36-29. Peng Fei could not figure out why Senior Long Tian was looking for the Golden Rock Patriarch. As far as he knew, the Golden Rock Patriarch had not shown himself in the 9 mystical caves for thousands of years. For a powerhouse like the Patriarch, his children had already spread out and were independent. He no longer cared about worldly affairs. Now, the Patriarch's only wish and goal was to reach the peak of the divine path and surpass the divine king realm. If Senior Long Tian asked the Patriarch about the past 1,000 years, the Patriarch would definitely not know. Unless, it was to inquire about what happened 1,000 years ago. That was still possible. However, Senior Long Tian did not have any relationship with the Golden Rock race. How could he have met the Golden Rock Patriarch? Peng Fei was puzzled, but he could not figure it out. He could only suppress this thought. He remembered that he was about to return to the 9 mystical caves and could not help but mutter, "Senior, it's fine if you ask for information, but don't leave me alone after sending me back." Although he did not hate the 9 mystical caves, he did not have a good impression of them. After all, this was related to his life and origin. He had an unpleasant past. Furthermore, his status in the 9 mystical wonderland was rather awkward. He was not a disciple with mediocre talent, nor was he a direct descendant with a strong backer. They belonged to the category of rootless duckweeds that were above average. They would not be bullied, but no one was willing to care for them. This situation lasted for more than 800 years. Peng Fei felt bored and awkward, so he decided to leave the 9 mystical caves and explore the outside world. Fortunately, the deacons and elders of the Golden Rock race were not angry because of this. He was not punished. Instead, the Golden Rock race secretly asked someone to take care of him in the mortal world. The master of Mount Wuhua, his master, and the Green Lotus Domain Lord were the 2 divine kings who were ordered to take care of him. His master and the Green Lotus Domain Lord thought he did not know about this. In fact, he was not a fool. How could he not know? Peng Fei's heart wavered as he thought of the past. Ji Tianqing visited by Feng and Peng Fei before returning to the distorted spacetime to visit Chao Qingyu and Yank. Now, these doyens who had followed him from the God realm to the Dragon realm had all won his trust. In terms of the treatment of the cultivation environment, this was the most obvious manifestation. For example, Chao Qingyu, Yank, and Lan Er could stay in the distorted spacetime for a long time and cultivate in seclusion under the blood flame's sacred tree. Before this, only Yun Yao, Ji Ku, Ji Wushuang, Bai Long, He Long, Xian Yu, and Zhen Hong were qualified to enter this place. Of course, Xue Lin, Sir God Blood Illusion, Left Emissary Jean and Blood Dragon Right Emissary were also accepted. Even though they were loyal and sincere to Ji Tianqing. However, the main reason why they could come to the distorted spacetime to cultivate was not because of this. It was because they were cultivating in Xue Lin's godly ship. Their progress was simply too slow. Speaking of which, only 3 to 4 years had passed in the outside world, and their strength had not improved much. However, everyone who cultivated in the distorted spacetime had undergone a great change and improved rapidly. Ji Tianqing felt that if this were to continue, he would be favoring one over the other and making Lin Xue, Sir God Blood Illusion and the rest disappointed. Therefore, he transferred Xue Lin and the rest into the distorted spacetime not long ago. Currently, there were already 14 Sir God and Godly King experts gathered in the distorted spacetime. There were members of the God clan, the Human clan, as well as the Demon clan's Divine Dragon and Heavenly Fox. More than 10 experts were cultivating in seclusion under the Blood Flame's sacred tree. All of them were emitting 5-colored divine light and brimming with vast and mighty divine power. The scene was indeed spectacular. Ji Tianqing took a look. Chao Qingyu and Yank's injuries were very serious. However, their lives were not in danger. They just needed to cultivate in seclusion for more than 10 years to fully recover. This result was acceptable. After all, they had loyally carried out their duties and worked so hard, therefore, Ji Tianqing took out many healing elixirs and resources and placed them in front of the 2 of them. Then, he left a jade slip for Yank. There was only one sentence in it. When your injuries have fully recovered, or when you have free time, help me refine and purify the mineral veins. Next. Ji Tianqing sat cross-legged under the blood flame's sacred tree and started to check his injuries. He also took stock of his gains in the star-devouring cave. He circulated his power for 2 cycles and checked every corner of his body. He found a total of 9 injuries. 7 of them were new injuries. The other 2 were old injuries that he had suffered outside the Golden Source Dragon Emperor's Xuanji cave. Fortunately, these injuries were not serious and did not affect him much. Ji Tianqing took elixirs and used secret healing techniques. He healed his injuries in just 2 months. Then, he started to take stock of his spoils. First, there were 2 God King experts' quintessence fragments. One belonged to the 3rd elder, Tao Rongxin. It was a 7th Heaven God King realm quintessence fragment. It contained more than 430 divine Tao laws. The other belonged to the 7th elder. He was the weakest at 6th Heaven God King realm. The number of divine Tao laws in the quintessence fragment was also relatively small. There were only 390 of them. Regarding this, Ji Tianqing felt that it was a pity. It would be great if he could kill Tao Yongsheng and the high priest. They were the two giants of the Taotai clan. They had at least 600 divine Tao laws. Unfortunately, he would only have the chance to realize this in the future. In addition to the two quintessence fragments, Ji Tianqing also had 6 huge mountains in his interspatial ring. Within each mountain, there was a vein of ore. There were 5 star mineral veins and 1 heavenly red cloud gold mineral vein. These were rare treasures that were hard to find in the mortal world. They were excellent materials for refining king-grade divine artifacts. Ji Tianqing used his divine power and melted the 6 mountains. Instantly, the dirt and impurities on the 6 mountains were removed. They shrunk by half and became metal lumps the size of hills. Of course, they only looked like lumps of metal. They had a metallic luster and were shining with dazzling divine light. In reality, they were still ores. They had to be refined and purified to obtain the pure star divine gold and heavenly red cloud gold. Ji Tianqing roughly estimated that after refining and purifying these 6 hills of ores, he should be able to exchange them for 300 million pieces of divine gold. That would be worth at least 400 billion. To any upper god king, this was equivalent to his lifetime's worth of wealth. Unfortunately, to the Taotai clan who is sitting on a mountain of gold, this can only make them angry. It can't make them feel heartache. If I have the chance to go to the star-devouring grotto heaven in the future, I would be letting myself down if I don't dig up hundreds of mines. Ji Tianqing muttered in his heart. He took out the 6 hills of ores one by one and sent them to the void in front of Yank with a wave of his hand. When Yank finished healing and saw the jade slip he left behind, he would start refining and purifying. After Yank refined the star divine gold and heavenly red cloud gold, he would also have to put upgrading the sword of burial of heaven on the agenda. After all, the ones he came into contact with now were all upper god kings. The sword of burial of heaven, which was a mid-grade king-grade divine artifact, was already somewhat inadequate. Chapter 36-30. After dealing with the 6 mines, Ji Tianqing looked into the interspatial ring for the last spoils of war. 2 lotus-like flowers with 9 petals the size of a wash basin. A high-grade king-level treasure, star-devouring flower. Although there were only 2 divine flowers, their value was immeasurable. In the current dragon realm, even if someone offered 100 billion divine stones for 1 flower, they might not be able to buy it. It was not that the flower was really valuable, but that it was too rare and precious. According to Ji Tianqing's knowledge, in the entire dragon realm, only the star-devouring grotto heaven and a few ancient forbidden grounds had produced star-devouring flowers. Therefore, before he went to the star-devouring grotto heaven, he was thinking about the star-devouring flower. Only the barbarians of the Taotai clan, who were not good at refining weapons or pills, would not care about the star-devouring flower. As a result, Ji Tianqing easily plucked 2 flowers while escaping. If it were those god clans in the god realm, they would have sent troops to guard the star-devouring flower long before it sprouted. Ji Tianqing held the 2 star-devouring flowers in his hands and temporarily fell into hesitation and consideration. Should I directly use the devouring divine ability to swallow and refine these 2 divine flowers? Or should I spend a lot of time and effort to refine them into the 9 revolution star rhyme pill before consuming them? Swallowing and refining directly was simple and straightforward and saved time. Although his devouring divine ability was very powerful and could not waste the divine flower's medicinal power. Doing so would only allow the divine flowers to unleash 80% of their effects. Refining the 9 revolution star rhyme pill was tedious and time-consuming, but it could allow the divine flowers to unleash 120% of their effects. Ji Tianqing calculated for a while and finally chose the latter. Forget it, the star-devouring flower is something that can only be chanced upon and not sought. It will probably be very difficult to obtain it in the future. I can't waste it recklessly. I'll just spend 2 to 3 years refining it into the 9 revolution star rhyme pill. Therefore, he began to rummage through the interspatial ring, searching for all kinds of supplementary materials and herbs needed to refine the pill. The 9-revolution star rhyme pill was a high-grade king-level divine pill. Most high-grade divine kings might not even know how to refine it. Firstly, the refining method was too mysterious and complicated. Secondly, it required too many materials. 17 types of herbs and 9 types of supplementary materials. In addition to the main ingredient, the star-devouring flower, there were a total of 27 materials to refine the 9-revolution star rhyme pill. Such a troublesome divine pill that required so many supplementary materials and herbs was rare in the alchemy world, and it had never been welcomed by alchemists. Ji Tianqing rummaged through the ring for an hour. He had almost checked all the tens of thousands of resources and miscellaneous items in the ring. In the end, he only found 13 types of medicinal herbs and 7 types of supplementary materials. I'm still short of 4 medicinal herbs and 2 supplementary materials. It's just troublesome. Ji Tianqing put away the 13 types of medicinal herbs and 7 types of supplementary materials. He got up and went to look for Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and Chao Qingyu. These god kings might have the herbs and supplementary materials he needed in their personal savings and spatial rings. After all, the herbs and auxiliary materials were not too rare. Most of them were low-grade king-level materials, and only 2 were mid-grade king-level materials. With an apologetic smile, Ji Tianqing went to wake up Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and Chao Qingyu, who were still cultivating in seclusion. They were not dissatisfied with his interruption. Instead, they gave him an understanding and encouraging smile. Everyone was also carefully searching through their spatial rings. 4 hours later, Ji Tianqing had 2 more supplementary materials and 2 more medicinal herbs. Unfortunately, he was still short of 2 more medicinal herbs. Ji Tianqing sighed helplessly. He put away the 9 supplementary materials and the 15 medicinal herbs and muttered to himself, "It seems that refining the 9-revolution star rhyme pill can only be put aside for a while." The 9-revolution star rhyme pill was not only high-grade and precious, but it was also very effective. Not only could it heal the injuries of the god body and godhead, but it could also increase one's strength and strengthen one's body in all aspects. Thus, Ji Tianqing would not give up. He had to refine it no matter what. He had reached the peak of the 5th level of the Divine King realm. It would be difficult for him to break through to the 6th level of the Divine King realm in a short period of time if he did not have an opportunity or a test of life and death. Therefore, the 9-revolution star rhyme pill might be his opportunity. Forget it. I'll refine the 2 Godhead fragments first before I study the heaven-punishing divine skill to increase my strength. Ji Tianqing collected his thoughts and began to refine the 2 Godhead fragments. He had done this countless times. Naturally, he was familiar with it. In just 1 month, he had refined the 2 Godhead fragments. His strength had increased again. He had taken away 15 types of divine Tao laws and refined some of Tao Rong Xian's memories. This gave him a deeper understanding of the Tao Tai tribe's current situation. At the same time, the number of divine Tao laws that he had mastered had reached 540. Next, he cultivated the heaven-punishing divine skill. Currently, he had already cultivated to the 4th level. Many years ago, he had already deduced the 4th level of the skill. In the process of cultivation, he had constantly gained new insights and experiences. He had further modified and perfected the 4th level of the skill. When the 4th level of the skill reached perfection, he could cultivate to peak 6th level Divine King realm with ease. However, he had a strong premonition that if he wanted to assault the 7th level Divine King realm and become a high-ranking Divine King, then he must deduce the 5th level of the heaven-punishing divine skill. The burial of heaven sword was akin to a wisp of black light, akin to pitch-black lightning, streaking across above the firmament. It had already flown continuously for 3 days. Now, it arrived at the northwestern border of the Clear Sky domain and was about to leave the Clear Sky domain. Even though its speed was that tiny bit slower compared to Ji Tianqing when he flew at full speed. But it was also calm and tranquil along the way these 3 days. It did not attract anyone's attention. The way it saw it, the few powerhouses of the Tao Tai tribe had long been shaken off by Ji Tianqing. Now, it should be able to leave the clear sky domain safe and sound, without any surprise or danger. But very unfortunately, a scene that it did not expect appeared. Just as it crossed over the sky above the towering mountains and precipitous ridges, leaping over the vast sea of clouds. Above the sea of clouds on the right, several streaks of dazzling divine light actually lit up, piercing over like thunder. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! There were a total of 4 streaks of divine light. All of them were multicolored and filled with divine power. Within each streak of divine light, there was a figure of a demon tribe powerhouse. Moreover, those 4 streaks of divine light chased over from the right rear. They locked onto the burial of heaven's sword with formless divine consciousness. They were clearly here to intercept it. The burial of heaven did not recognize the divine king powerhouses within those 4 streaks of divine light. It also did not want to have any contact with them. It unleashed its full power without hesitation and accelerated towards the northwestern direction. Whoosh! Its normal flying speed was slightly slower than Ji Tianqing's. But when it sped up recklessly, its speed was actually slightly faster than Ji Tianqing's full-speed flight. It instantly transformed into a streak of pitch-black aurora and disappeared at the end of the vast sea of clouds. Those 4 streaks of divine light that chased over were clearly stunned. But after they reacted, they seemed to have confirmed something and accelerated even more excitedly. They had no intention of giving up on intercepting the burial of heaven's sword. Moreover, their expressions were not worried at all. They looked as if they had a card up their sleeve. While speeding up to catch up to the burial of heaven's sword, they were also communicating with each other through divine consciousness. Humph. Our target should be in that sword. That's right. When clan leader Tao sent a message to this king, he mentioned that kid's description and appearance, as well as the weapon he used. It was a pitch-black divine sword. Heh. That divine sword is quite alert. The moment it saw us appear, it sped up and ran away without saying anything. Run away. Can it run away? Clan leader Tao's inescapable net has long been spread out. Chapter 36-31. Whoosh! The burial of heaven cut through the sky like a bolt of black lightning. It was so fast that it couldn't be seen with the naked eye. It maintained a high level of vigilance. As it guarded its surroundings, it stared at the sky in front of it. Below is the border of Clear Sky region. After crossing this majestic mountain range, I will be able to leave Clear Sky region and enter Ganyang region. The 4 divine kings just now weren't experts from Tao Tai clan. They should be helpers that Tao Yongsheng invited. In the world within the sword, Ji Tianqing, who was awakened by the burial of heaven, was standing in the sky and muttering to himself. He used the burial of heaven's perspective to observe the world outside the sword and analyze the current situation. I didn't expect Tao Yongsheng to be so ruthless and insist on killing everyone. Since he invited helpers, I'm afraid he has forces not only in Clear Sky region but also in Ganyang region. Ji Tianqing didn't need to guess to know that Tao Tai clan had occupied Clear Sky region for tens of thousands of years. The surrounding regions must have been infiltrated by Tao Tai clan. Not to mention that the surrounding regions were controlled by Tao Tai clan, at least there were forces of Tao Tai clan lurking in them. Even the leaders of a few regions and other top forces had to give face to Tao Tai clan. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing was 70 to 80% sure that there was an ambush in Ganyang region ahead. However, he thought of a very important question. I've already shaken off Tao Yongsheng and the high priest. They should be thousands of miles away now, right? Moreover, I didn't travel personally and didn't leave any divine power aura in the world. What method did he use to sense that I escaped in this direction and accurately calculate the time I would take to reach the border? Ji Tianqing frowned as he pondered. He vaguely felt that this was a big problem. If he didn't solve it as soon as possible, it would be very difficult for him to escape the pursuit of Taotai clan. Unfortunately, he paid the most attention to the cultivation of sword doctrine in his previous life, followed by formation doctrine, followed by alchemy in weapon refinement. As for tracking and deduction doctrine, he rarely dabbled in them. He could only be considered a beginner and not proficient enough. He deeply suspected that Tao Yongsheng might have mastered some tracking and deduction doctrine to be able to calculate the direction and progress of his escape. Otherwise, this matter would be hard to explain. He decided to consult Bai Feng after this matter was over. After all, Bai Feng also mastered a similar divine secret skill and was proficient in tracking and deduction doctrine. Back when he was on the boundless heaven continent of the divine realm, those divine envoys had used Bai Feng in order to accurately pinpoint his location and send a large number of troops to intercept and kill him. And now Tao Yongsheng was similar to him. There must be some similarities between them. Just as Ji Tianqing was pondering, the buried heaven sword had already crossed the towering mountain range and left the clear sky territory. The sky in front of him was still a vast sea of clouds, and the sky was blue. However, the earth had changed. Of heaven of heaven. Of heaven of heaven of heaven, of. At this moment, an even greater danger appeared. Teat of heavens, of God of. Swish. Swish. In the blink of an eye, 18 beams of God of light shot into the sky and reached the top of the sea of clouds. They were 18 demon clan divine lords in blood-red armor. They were murderous. They looked like jackals and wolves. Their bodies were like tigers and leopards. They had a pair of wide wings on their backs. They were obviously not from the Taotai clan. They flew above the sea of clouds and quickly spread out. They formed an arc of defense in the sky. The 18 high-level divine lords all gripped their weapons tightly as they stared intently at the pitch-black divine sword flying towards them. The distance between the two parties was getting closer. 10,000 miles, 9,000 miles, 8,000 miles, 7,000 miles. Ji Tianqing carefully observed the 18 sanguine armor divine lords through the heaven's burier sword's perspective. After looking at it for a while, he suddenly frowned and came to a realization. It's the Cheongqi clan. Look at their attire. Could they be the elites of the Cheongqi clan's blood massacre hall? 1,000 years ago, Ji Tianqing had met the Cheongqi clan when he was wandering in the Dragon Realm. Of course, it wasn't a pleasant thing. The Cheongqi clan and the Taotai clan were the vicious ones among the 7 noble clans of the Demon clan. They were not as good as the other 5 in terms of character and style. After all, these 2 clans were considered outliers among the orthodox demon clans. Strictly speaking, they should be called ferocious beasts. Before the ancient times, when the dragon, phoenix, and Qilin first established the Dragon Realm, the Cheongqi clan and the Taotai clan were ferocious beasts. Countless demon clans avoided them. One liked to kill and pillage. The other liked to devour living beings and plunder resources. Therefore, the Cheongqi clan and the Taotai clan were very powerful. No demon clans dared to provoke them. Fortunately, the dragon, phoenix, and Qilin clans were all gods. They had many powerful overlords. The almighty experts of the dragon and phoenix races had made their moves, killing countless magnates of the Cheongqi and Taotai races. That was how they managed to suppress the arrogance of the 2 races, making the other races of the dragon world applaud in joy. After the age of chaos ended, order and rules were established in the Dragon Realm. All the clans began to live in peace. The Cheongqi and Taotai clans were hated, feared, and ostracized by other demon clans. It seemed that they could not survive in the Dragon Realm. Therefore, the ancestors of the two clans went to hug the dragon clan's thighs. In the process of the dragon clan pacifying the world and unifying all the demon clans, the Cheongchi and Taotai clans also made a lot of contributions. In order to appease the two clans, the dragon clan included them in the 7 noble clans of the demon clan. They could continue to live and reproduce in the dragon realm. The descendants of the Cheongchi and Taotai clans were smart. In the following tens of thousands of years, they had been well-behaved and did not dare to cause trouble in the world. Even if they did commit crimes, they did it on a small scale. They did not dare to alarm the dragon emperors. At the same time, they were very cautious. They were very good at covering up the truth, cleaning up after themselves, and hiding information. These were all ancient legends. Ji Tianqing had heard of them before. Therefore, he did not have a good impression of the Cheongchi and Taotai clans. There was another point. These two clans were not only brothers in distress, but they also secretly formed an alliance to advance and retreat together. The star-devouring grotto heaven that the Taotai clan occupied was in the clear sky territory. Coincidentally, the blessed grotto heaven that the Cheongchi clan occupied was in the Ganyang territory next door. Although there would be some friction between the two clans occasionally. Most of the time, especially when they were doing bad things, they were still quite united. Damn it! I actually neglected this matter. I should have known that the Cheongchi clan is in the Ganyang territory. Ji Tianqing frowned. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and his expression was serious. Of course, if he wanted to leave the clear sky territory and go to the Golden Rock clan's 9 mystical grotto heaven, the Ganyang territory was a place he had to pass through. It could not be helped. The 9 mystical grotto heaven was at the northwest edge of the Starsource continent, right next to the endless divine ocean. He could not go around 2 or 3 territories just to avoid the Cheongchi clan, right? What was done could not be undone. It was useless to say anything. He only wanted to know who else the Cheongchi clan sent besides the 18 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 36-32. The Hall of Blood Slaughter is here. Black sword ahead, stop. When the burial of heaven was still 3,000 miles away from the Hall of Blood Slaughter elites, the 18 blood armor divine lords shouted in unison. Their cold and austere voices were truly awe-inspiring. Unfortunately, it was of no use. It could not temporarily increase their strength, nor could it slow down the burial of heaven. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh! On the contrary, the burial of heaven sped up. It was like a bolt of black lightning, stabbing straight at one of the blood armor divine lords. The burial of heaven was very fast. Only a high god king could compare to it. As for these high divine lord realm blood slaughter hall elites, they were basically unable to clearly see the trajectory of the heaven-burying sword. All they could do was shout, "Be careful," and counterattack with their weapons. Of course, it was all in vain. Bam! The burial of heaven easily pierced through the forehead of the first hall of blood slaughter elite, instantly shattering his godhead and causing a spray of blood. Then, the burial of heaven pierced through his head. It streaked across the sky like a bolt of black lightning, accurately stabbing into the second hall of blood slaughter elite. It still hit him in the forehead, pierced his brain, and shattered his godhead. It was an instant kill. The burial of heaven pierced through the back of the second person's head and attacked the third hall of blood slaughter elite. The same scene played out once more. Then, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, muffled sounds rang out one after another, accompanied by streaks of blood blooming in the sky. The heaven-burier sword was like a death curse, instantly taking the lives of 9 elites of the Hall of Bloody Slaughter. All of them were killed in one strike, as fast as the aurora. The 9 blood slaughter hall elites who were instantly killed all had huge bloody holes in their foreheads, but their corpses were still in good condition. Then, they fell from the sky at high speed. If it were any other time, these high divine Lord Realm Blood Slaughter Hall elites were all powerhouses whose names shook a region in the Ganyang region. No matter which divine nation they were in, they would be respected figures like divine generals, marshals, and imperial preceptors. However, under Burial of Heaven's sword, he didn't even have the chance to escape and was instantly killed. The other 9 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall were lucky enough to survive because they were relatively far away. After all, the 18 elites had spread out and formed a long line of defense. No matter how fast the Burial of Heaven's sword was, it still took a breath's time to kill 9 elites in a row. Witnessing this scene with their own eyes, the 9 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall who were scared out of their wits no longer dared to brandish their weapons and attack. Naturally, he retreated with all his might, bursting forth with his fastest speed and escaping without a trace. The sword of Burial of Heaven immediately gave chase and followed them to the north. Swish! In the blink of an eye, the sword of Burial of Heaven caught up with 3 more Bloodbath Hall elites and killed them instantly. However, just as it was about to chase after the other 6 elites, several beams of divine light suddenly attacked from the front. Those were divine abilities unleashed by Godly King experts. They were extremely powerful. Swish! 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 There were ice blades and frost swords that blotted out the sky, divine flames that transformed into a rain of arrows and giant blades, as well as mountain-sized phantoms of ferocious beasts and various lightning bolts. Ji Tianqing, who was in the sword world, instantly determined that these were divine abilities unleashed by 4 high godly kings. They finally appeared. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and muttered to himself. At the same time, he appeared in the sky out of thin air and put away the sword of Burial of Heaven. With a swish, he disappeared. It was as if he had never appeared. This world still had his aura, but they couldn't find any trace of him even after searching for hundreds of thousands of miles. Rumble. Boom. 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 The sky-blotting ice blades and frost swords, the rain of fire arrows, the giant blades, and the other spells all missed their target and crashed into the heaven and earth. Along with the earth-shaking and heaven-shaking loud noises, the grassland within a radius of 30,000 miles was blasted into ruins. The ground cracked, and the ruins within 30,000 miles were all scorched earth. There were ravines and deep pits everywhere. Endless dust and flames surged up and covered the sky, causing the place to be in chaos. A few more pitch-black cracks appeared in the sky, and turbulent void storms flashed past. Such a terrifying sound made the few godly kings in the sky from the south tremble with fear. They hadn't reached the battlefield yet, but they were secretly communicating with each other and exclaiming. This is the technique of a high godly king. It's really terrifying. It must be the elders and guardians of the Cheongchi tribe. That kid is dead for sure. Nonsense. When those high godly kings attacked together, even tens of thousands of miles were destroyed, let alone that kid from the dragon clan. The Cheongchi tribe has always been violent, and they are harder to get along with than the Taotai tribe. Later, you have to watch your words. Don't anger the Cheongchi tribe's experts. Understood, understood. Thank you for the reminder, Region Master Ganyang. As they spoke, the 4 godly kings had already passed through the smoke-filled sky and arrived at the scene of the incident. At this moment, they saw 4 godly king experts 10,000 miles away in the sky. They were searching around with gloomy expressions. The 4 godly kings were all from the Cheongchi tribe. They all looked like wolves, tigers, and leopards, with blood-red wings on their backs. The person in the lead was extremely powerful. His aura was majestic, and his divine might was vast. He was an old man with purple hair. He wore dark blue armor and held a soul slasher that was more than 3 feet long in his right hand. The other 3 Cheongchi tribe's godly kings were 2 old men and a middle-aged man. They all wore purple divine armor. In comparison, they were slightly weaker. Region Master Gan Yang was the most familiar with the Cheongchi tribe. He hurriedly introduced them to Fairski through voice transmission. That's the left guardian of the Cheongchi tribe. There are also the 6th, 7th, and 8th elders. The left guardian is an 8th stage high godly king. The 6th and 7th elders are 7th stage godly kings. Only the 8th elder is younger. He's 6th stage godly king. Hearing Domain Master Gan Yang's introduction, Domain Master Qin Kong felt more confident in her heart and secretly thanked him. Then, the 4 of them hurriedly flew over and greeted the left guardian and the others. Greetings to the left guardian and the various elders. The 4 region masters and deputy region masters were very humble. Their expressions and tone were very respectful. The left guardian turned a deaf ear to them and even ignored them. He closed his eyes and executed his divine ability to search for the target's whereabouts. The 6th elder was afraid that the 4 of them would feel awkward. He waved his hand and said, "Everyone, there's no need to be so courteous. Let's get down to business first." The 4 region masters and deputy region masters were stunned and revealed a puzzled expression. Region Master Gan Yang couldn't help but ask, "6th elder, you guys attacked earlier. Didn't you kill that kid?" The 6th elder frowned and said angrily, "That kid didn't show up at all. Now even that black sword has disappeared." The 4 region masters were speechless. Their relaxed mood was lifted up again. Seeing their strange expressions, the 6th elder also felt awkward. He was afraid that he would tarnish the Cheongchi tribe's reputation and be looked down upon. Therefore, he added a few more words to explain. "We attacked just to save the 6 elites of the blood slaughter hall. We wanted to stop the black sword and force that kid to show up. We wanted to confirm the target before attacking. Who would have thought that he would disappear into thin air?" You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.